Hi there, my name is Dan and I'm an Adobe certified instructor for Photoshop, and this is your Photoshop Advanced course. Now this is an advanced course, so it's not for beginners in Photoshop. It is for people who already understand the fundamentals of Photoshop. You have your way of working, but you know that there is a better, faster, more efficient way of working. That thing that takes you half an hour to do, you know that there's probably a one-click solution. Now, if that sounds familiar, this course is for you. We'll start by learning all the best selection techniques available. I promise by the end of this first section, what took you 30 minutes to mask will take you 30 seconds. We'll fix the hard images, what to do with blurry images, advanced levels and curves tricks, and how to work specifically with skin, plus adjusting and enhancing colors. You'll learn the tricks for enlarging images without distorting, and what to do when it all goes wrong. You'll learn to create more of something like this grass here, where there wasn't something before. You'll learn the tricks for convincingly removing all kinds of objects from images. And my personal favorite section will show you how to distort, bend, and reshape images. We'll even make this guy dance. Hey, I said dance. You'll learn how lots of trending visual styles are created easily. Duotones, glitches, orange and teal color grading, double exposures. There's loads more too. We get type nerdy, font pairing with Typekit, getting Photoshop to guess fonts that are being used in an image, hidden glyphs and ligatures for fonts, plus variable, open type, and similar fonts. It's typetastic. It's a word. You'll master artboards while you're learning how to make easily updatable, multiple size social media posts. There's a big section on advanced retouching, advanced healing, advanced cloning and patching, as well as face adjustments. Will be a little bit more subtle than this. We'll master teeth and eye corrections. You'll learn how to edit videos in Photoshop. We'll also animate static images, creating these parallax videos, plus the very cool cinemagraphs, or better known as living images. They're really great for social media. They play on and on. You'll learn how to master 3D in Photoshop. We'll finish off the course with professional reusable mock-up techniques and shortcuts. Now this course has a really strong focus on workflow. We're going to use practical real-world projects to learn the tips, techniques, and shortcuts to really shave hours out of your Photoshop day. So, who am I? As well as being an officially certified Photoshop expert by Adobe, I am an 18-year Photoshop veteran. I also get to make Adobe help videos directly for them. And again this year, I'm presenting Photoshop at Adobe's 20,000 attendee strong conference called Adobe Max. This course comes with downloadable exercise files, so you can play along with the course. Throughout the course as well, I set class projects so that you can practice the skills you're learning. Now, if you can't remember the last time you went through all of the updates and upgrades to Photoshop, let this course be your all-in-one professional development for Photoshop. All right, even if you consider yourself a pretty heavy user of Photoshop, I promise you will find stuff in this course that will blow your Photoshop mind. So what are you waiting for? Sign up and I'll see you in there. I'm not sure why I point back there. Hi there, welcome to the course. First thing, we just need to get a few things ready before we start the course. First is downloading the exercise files. So there'll be a link on this page here to click and download the files that we'll use in this course. Another thing to consider here is if you're using an earlier version of Photoshop. So this course was built in CC 2018. Okay, so if you've got that or anything above that, 19, which is out really soon, it will work perfect. If you've got CS6 or CS5, a lot of the features aren't going to work here, so it's probably not going to be perfect for you. If you still want to do it, maybe about 60% of the course will totally work fine, but there's going to be chunks where it just relies on features that don't exist yet. All right, the next thing here is we just need to reset our workspace just so that we're all looking the same. So open up Photoshop and up here under Window, okay, go to Workspace. We're going to start with Essentials, okay? And maybe go back into Window, Workspace, and just click Reset Essentials. Then just know that yours looks like mine. Up to you, you might have your own workspace, but let's start off on the right foot. All right, that's it from me. Let's get started and actually start doing stuff in Photoshop. Hi everyone, it is time to get started. We're going to start with something called Select Subject. It is an amazing tool. If you've ever spent long hours masking out people, this might make you cry. But don't worry, it's new for Photoshop. I can show it to you here in about 2 seconds. Select Subject. It creates a selection and you add a mask. Is it that easy? Yes, some of the time. So let's take this super amazing, easy to use tool, run it through its paces, see what works easily, what takes a little bit more work. And if you've ever had to mask out a person, get ready for your life to be changed. Let's jump in now. All right, to get started, let's go to File, let's go to Open. And in your exercise files, there is a folder called O2 Selections and Masking. And let's open up 5 files, okay? I want Select Subject 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So Select Subject. Open all 5 of those. Basically what I've tried to do is, this first one here, Subject 1, is pretty easy to do, and they slowly get harder and harder because often you see tutorials online and you're like, yeah, use this tool and it's amazing and it works perfect. And then you go and use it and you're like, am I doing it wrong or is it too good to be true? So often with anything in Photoshop, it works perfect in the perfect situation. And I will show you what happens when it doesn't and how to fix it. So we can become professionals and realistic professionals. So let's start with Subject 1. The other thing to note is if you go to Select and this subject is not there, it means you probably got an older version of Photoshop. Unfortunately, sad face, this came out in Photoshop 2018. So if you get an early version, sorry, it's not going to work. But for the people that do have an up-to-date version, prepare for amazingness. There's a feature, it came out, it's under the radar. I bet you don't even know it exists. It's got a terrible name. Well, not a terrible name, but it should have an exclamation mark or some sort of flame emoji next to it because it's that good. Stop talking, Dan, and start using it. Just click on it. It's pretty easy. Kick back, relax, wait for your machine to do it, depending on how big the image is. Look at that selection. Now don't worry, it's not absolutely 100% perfect. It gets you 80% of the way there. Let's look at the selection by adding a layer mask. Click on that. You can see there's a few issues going on that we can fix up reasonably easy using one of the other cool new tools called Selector Mask. But it's pretty amazing how it uses something called Adobe Sensei, which is Adobe's artificial intelligence, machine learning. I don't really know which of those it is. It's fancy though. It looks at lots of other images online and tries to calculate a selection based on kind of past images. To be honest, I don't know how it works, but I do know how to fix our selection because there's a few little bits that adjust. You can see around the beard there. Sometimes it's just perfect. I found one that was kind of half good. It's done a pretty good job. So to fix it up, what we're going to do is just make sure your mask is selected over here. Okay, so not the image, click the mask. Then click on Select a Mask, another really cool feature. Now up the top here, yours is probably set to onion skin. Let's go against on black. It's going to give us a really good contrast between the background and the model. Okay, and I've got my opacity right up if yours is not. Now in these features here, yours might be all twirled up nice and pretty like that. Okay, there is no like exact thing that I use every time. There is a lot of playing. So you might spend, like we spent like absolutely like 3 seconds doing the initial mask, but you might spend another minute or 2 dragging these sliders up and down to see what it does. Edge detection is going to work reasonably well in this one because I've practiced. Okay, basically what it does, it just gives you a kind of a fluffy edge for it to do some more calculations in. Smart radius on, smart radius off. Don't worry too much about like what smart radius does. Do it on and off to see, does it make it better? In my case, no. Does it make it worse? I think I like it on. Leaves a bit more detail here. I'm going to close up edge detection. Let's go to global refinements. Smoothing it out. It probably needs a little bit. There's a few bits that are a bit jaggedy over here. And if you're like, did I make it better or worse? See up here it says show original. Turn that on, turn that off. We made it a load better. Okay, so P key, you can just toggle that on your keyboard. See the thing in the brackets there? P on, P off. All right, feather I never use. You might have an experiment with it and you might love it. Same with contrast. Shift edge I use a bit just to kind of tuck it in a little bit. There's a bit of ghosting around the outside. So how much? Now shift edge and this one down here called decontaminate colors, I kind of fight between. Sometimes I use this, sometimes I use this one. Let's turn on decontaminate colors. Just show, have a look at the hair along the top. So off, on, it just kind of helps extract the image from the background. So sometimes it's shifting the edge in a little bit or decontaminate colors. In this case, I'm doing a bit of both. Let's go back out. It's looking pretty good. There are some manual touch-ups I need to do. Okay, like there's a bit of a shoulder missing. So what we're gonna use is this option here. Okay, the third option down, the brush tool. This is basically, I'm just gonna click and drag. It just kind of adds the background back in one big foul swoop. Because this thing's doing so many calculations over here, my drag is taking forever to kind of populate. So I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna zoom in, move down, and I'm just gonna paint in with my paintbrush, give it a second. So I'm just gonna paint in some of the kind of poorer areas. It's all looking good. There's a few bits of ears that I might touch up. So with it natural, okay, it just paints things back in. I'm gonna undo that. If you hold down the Alt key on a PC or the Option key on a Mac, it's really hard to see here on the screen, but there's a little plus that turns into a minus. So I'm just gonna toggle that a little bit off. A little fluff from his ear, that probably needs a couple of clicks. Fix up the beard there. You can see it's always calculating. That's why it's a little bit hard in this area. This mask and select program to be very quick. Depends on how fast your computer is, how big the image is, how much of these dials you've messed around with. I'm happy enough with it. Like, it's a pretty good mask, right? And it really depends on its final position. I'm going to put mine on the brickwork, which is subject 5, and it's going to be pretty forgiving. So let's click OK. What you'll notice is if you turn on decontaminate colors, that last little option, instead of updating your current layer mask, it will create its own one. So I want to move it to this last tab here. I can grab my move tool, click, hold, drag, 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 hold in the tab and then drag it back down. And pretty awesome mask. Cool, huh? Let's look at a few more examples and go a bit deeper with this kind of model selection. So I'm at select subject 2. Let's do the same thing. Let's go to select. Let's go to subject, kick back or relax, and be amazed. This one here is a lot different because there's a lot more kind of like fine here, which is always a problem when you're selecting models. Even so, it's done a pretty amazing job, huh? There's a little bit of stuff here where the color of his jacket's very similar to the background, but let's just apply the mask and see where we're at. Now you might decide, actually, that's it. That's good enough for me. I am out of here. It's a pretty amazing tool. Well done, Photoshop software engineers. But let's go into it a little bit more detail. So make sure you've got your mask selected and let's go to select a mask. You can see against black, okay, there's some issues. Now, if in the last image, we had a pretty consistent line around the outside. The guy had a nice clean edge and not frizzy hair like this person. Okay, nice, easy to mask hair. This person, not so easy. I find this better as a two-step process. You've got global controls that does every single edge here. Then you can use your brushes to do little bits. So I find I get the big global stuff done first and then come back into here to do things like here. So in here, there's a bit of experimenting. I'm just looking at some of these edges. Like, here we go. We'll use this bit here. So radius, drag it up. Am I happy with it? It's getting better. Remember P on your keyboard? I think I liked it better before. I think it needs a little bit of smoothing. There's too many like jagged bits. I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit. There you go. It's starting to look nice. Radius. There are no settings specific. Okay, it's just, it depends on your image and depends the look I'm looking for. I think that's a pretty good one. So P key, tap it on, tap it off. Ignore the hair, but look at the edges of the jacket. It's done a whole lot better. Great, so I've finished that now. I'm going to click OK. Because now I want to go back into it. So the same thing again, select a mask and work on just this because these are all reset back to 0. If you don't, and you start using this tool here, the redefine edge tool, it just becomes a bit messy. It's all trying to do this, lots of things at the same time. So this tool here, brilliant. Watch this. Prepare yourselves, click, drag, and I'm dragging and you're like, oh, it's okay, not bad. Wait for it when I let go. Magic. There's some amazingly selected here. There's a little bit of ghosting around it, which we can fix, but you can see all this hair that doesn't exist, and it magically does. Watch this, click and drag. So good. And what I might do is, there's a couple of things. One last thing. His eyebrows need just a tiny bit of work. Okay, what I might do is smaller brush size and just kind of work them around here. And there's this bit in here. Will the refine edge work on it? Oh, it did. I thought I was going to have to jump to this plain old paintbrush, but you impressed me more. Cool. From here on in, like it depends on where you're using it again. If against black, you're going to have to spend a bit more time in here. I want to touch on decontaminate colors. Nah, it's not for me. If you ever turn that on, it's going to create this new layer with mask. I want to go back to just updating my layer mask, please, rather than a whole new layer. Click OK. How happy am I with it? I'm going to copy and paste it onto here and check it. Let's turn you off. Goodbye, Winky Man. Back to subject 2, and instead of dragging it, people hate this. I hate it. It's a pain doing it that way. I'm just going to show you another way because we're here for some advanced tips, right? So right click, layer 0. You might already know this way. Go to duplicate layer, and it'll allow you to put it on anything that's open. And there's our select subject 5. Click OK, and then jump to select 5, and there he is. The cool thing about it, he comes with his layer mask, which is handy. He's a bit small for this image, and the top of it's clipped, but you get the idea, right? And look at the hair. Look at the hair selection. Oh, so good. Eyebrow selection, 100% eyebrow selection. So with a bit of practice, if this is something you're doing regularly, you could imagine how fast you could make this. We've been learning it together. I've been teaching you. It's only taken a couple of minutes. All right, let's turn this fella off and get to our subject 3. All right, so this guy has some issues. Well, not issues. Let's have a look. Let's go to select and go to subject. I want to show you what ends up happening. Okay, it's going to miss bits is what it's going to do. You can see there's a bit on the elbow down here that just doesn't match up. There's a bit that it hasn't got there. That's okay. It's done a pretty good job. It's starting to stretch up these things, and that's what's the problem in this one, is that the background has, see all these kind of streaks heading up through the wood? Okay, they are going to cause problems when we try and fix it up. So yeah, we'll just go a little bit further with this third option with a few extra issues, because the first two are pretty easy. Still pretty amazing. Let's click on our layer mask. Again, you might decide, job done. With it selected though, we're going to go to select and mask, and yeah, there's a few little issues. Can we fix this up globally? It's mainly just the hair. The actual sides of him look okay. Maybe let's do a little bit of smoothing just to kind of even out some of that. Okay, maybe the peaky on and off. This bit here, I could use my refine edge brush. Let's go here and let's try and drag across this. And this is where we'll find it's kind of working, but kind of not. It's because there's a big lump of wood, dark wood running up here. So it really wants to kind of reach into there rather than have a nice crisp edge. So to get around things like that, you're actually going to have to do some actual physical painting using the brush tool. So I've got the brush tool, but I want to use minus. I'm just going to manually tweak this out. The cool thing about using the brush tool and using these settings is that you're brushing, but it's also applying this kind of smoothing to it as well. There's a bit down here that we need to get rid of, and that refine edge brush is never going to work. So we're going to tidy these up manually. Brush sizes. Why doesn't it work? Because I've tried it and I couldn't make it work. There is just times where you're going to have to get in there with a teeny tiny paintbrush. As long as you're inside select and mask and you've made some of these adjustments like smooth, while you are going, it's adjusting. It can slow your computer down a little bit though. So yep, goodbye. Cool. So I've done the edges, now I want to do the hair. And what I like to do, instead of going in and doing the edges of the hair now, I like to click OK and come back in. Why? Because it's trying to do that smoothing all the time when I'm using my refine edge brush, and they're kind of fighting with each other, and I don't like that. I find it doesn't give me a nice result. So I click OK and then just go straight back in, and everything's set back to 0. See, smoothing is at 0. Now I get to go to refine edge tool. How big is my brush? That works for me. Let's have a little look. I'm just going to rub across his beard. It's quite intimate here with the man's beard. Lovely tool. So it's all about the combination of tools in Photoshop once you get to kind of an advanced level, right? It's knowing which tools to use, which is the hardest thing, and that's why I'm here to show you. But it's also combining them. Now, can you see here, this is a bit of a problem because there is a streak of wood that runs up there. Okay, and that's what's giving us our problems here. So what we're gonna have to do is just get in super tiny. This is the way to get around these kind of issues. Okay, so get in super tiny. I'm holding down the Alt key on a PC. When I say get in super tiny, I say go get in nice and close. Okay, and I'm gonna hold down the Option key on my Mac, Alt key on a PC, and just get rid of these. Okay, even smaller brush. And you can find you can kind of work it back in and back out. So just small little parts. There we go. P key before, after. Cool. Just working around. See, it looks good. Not sure why the beard seems more seems more personal. Cut a man's hair, I'm sure I could. Trimming his beard. You don't need to know this. All right, ear. Now the ear here, I'm reluctant to hit it with this tool because it'll kind of make his ear all wishy-washy. I know it's a nice solid part of skin, so I'm going to go to my brush tool and just use my minus. Okay, make it a bit bigger, holding down the minus key or the Alt key on my, sorry, the Option key on my Mac, the Alt key on my PC. I'm just going to go around here and just manually tidy it up. All right, my friends, you're looking handsome. Let's click OK. Cool mask. Let's move it to this other document, and I'm going to share with you one last kind of moving it to another document trick. Okay, so we've done the drag, we've done the duplicate. There's an old but new updated feature, copy and paste. The reason you probably don't use copy and paste is in the past you went select all, copy, paste, and it only brought through either the image or the mask. You can see it here, it didn't bring in the whole like little group, but that's been fixed by Adobe. So instead of doing like a select all and copy, just go to, so I got this layer selected, okay, got the word, that layer selected there, just go to copy. You can use your shortcut, okay, Command C on a Mac, and then go to here and go to paste, and magic, Photoshop has fixed it and brings through the mask and the image. So no more drag into the tab. You've got an older version of Photoshop, you'll still have to do it, but 2018 on, you can just go Command C, Command V. Brings through things like bevel and embosses and drop shadows and all sorts of cool stuff now. Just select the layers you want, copy it, paste it, brings everything through. All right, let's look at our last one, and this is the hardest of them all. Okay, it's still pretty amazing. Let's go to select, subject. There's just a lot of work to do this one. I want to show you what I would do here, but there is just some manual labor. It's done a pretty good job for most of it. Okay, I'm going to add a layer mask. Now, that's not working, right? It's got a lot of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of going in and trying to fix it all in the, remember the select and mask, which we've done, we're going to utilize the quick selection tool. Now, if you are old school Photoshop and you're like magic wand tool, quick selection tool, we don't use them because they're terrible. It is amazing. Quick selection tool. Okay. I'm going to go through and do a couple of bits. First of all, I don't need any of this. So what I might do is actually just start with my rectangle marquee tool, hold down the Option key on my Mac, Alt key on a PC, and drag a box around it to say, I do not want any of that. If you're like me and you're like, I wonder what's still selected, probably an easy way is just to toggle that button. Okay, just kind of makes everything red to show you what you've got selected and what you don't, and toggle it off. All right, so back to our quick selection tool. Turn on auto enhance, it makes it better. Not sure why it would not be on. Okay, I'm going to zoom in, and I find this is a good way to get kind of closer to where you need to be to do the finer adjustments in the selector masks. So I'm going to add. Quick selection tool is pretty amazing. It itself learns as you go, so you'll find your initial selections can be okay, but as you go along, it's not actually just clicking on here, it's actually going back and looking at the rest of the selection and making adjustments, okay, because it knows more. It's, oh man, it's smart. You can see there, it just gets better and better as it learns what I want and what I don't want. Just clicking and dragging down here, doing a bit of a loop around here. Let's grab too much in there. Now I find as well, if I did a big drag there, it kind of went, it started spreading out too much. So I'm going to step backwards. So edit, step backwards a bunch of times. Step backwards, I'm using that shortcut. Okay, just clicking once and once is actually probably a nicer way of using it. And it went and did it anyway. Go away you. Don't listen to me. I'm holding down the Option key on my Mac to remove from the selection. Okay, so naturally it wants to add to the selection, but you can hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC to remove the from the selection, get rid of the stuff. If you get lost in here, remember, just tap on this again, the quick selection. I only use that for that to make it red. I don't use that tool anymore. It was cool. So you can see here, blue and blue, it's pretty amazing how good it gets. There's probably going to be some issues with the shoelace. There's definitely some issues with the shoe down here. And for the moment, I'm going to ignore the shoelace, just otherwise you'll be watching me forever. I'm just giving it a bit of a once over. Looking around, anything that I do or don't want. There's a little bit in here. What I'm going to do is I'll get the editor to speed up this last little bit because it's just me being probably a little bit pedantic. So, see you at the end. All right, you're back, and yeah, so a little bit more, well, a lot more work, but still, it got a lot of that, got 70% of there, right? I'm gonna add a layer mask, gonna go into my selector mask, I'm gonna look at some global overall changes, probably smooth a little bit, just to smooth it out a bit. Smart radius, it's pretty good, I'm happy enough with it. So I did retouching for a lot of years, and you get like, you'll get 100 photos of this guy, okay? And like the settings are all the same. You're like, oh, I have to go to smoothing and shift the edge, and often you'll get to the same point. Like you've kind of played around with it for a while. Down the bottom here, you can say remember settings. Every time you load this back up, it's gonna remember the last thing you did, which can save yourself some time. The other thing to note is that we are in this one here, so high quality preview is not turned on. Okay, mainly because it takes a long time to calculate and it makes your machine run really slowly. So if you're here and you're like, oh man, it's 95% there, click OK. You might find that in that last little bit of processing, it finishes it all up for you. So it's good. Even the hair is actually fine enough for what I want to do. But now I might go back in and work on the hair. He's got a pretty easy hairstyle, like mine. I'm mostly bald, so masking me, pretty easy. Masking this guy, small brush, just testing here really. I didn't practice this, I'm just gonna, do I like it? I think it adds a little bit. Test decontaminate colors. Don't like that. And remember, if you turn that on, it instantly changes. Actually, decontaminate colors, and let's lower it down a little bit. Still doing some weird stuff across here. It's mainly because the blue from the containers reaching around. I think I like it on, but with the amount down a bit. That slider there is new as well. Well, at least my version, that wasn't there before. So it was either on or off. What you'll notice down here where it says output 2, you can't go back to that original layer mask. It'll say, I'll make a layer mask, but it has to be a brand new layer. Why? Because it does some weird stuff. First of all, I don't like it. I'm probably gonna go back. But if you did my Essentials course, you'll know that if I disable this mask, you'll see it does some weird stuff to the actual original image. That's why it leaves the original behind. If you're wondering like, man, it's a pain, it just creates this new layer. It's because it actually destroys the original to make this thing happen. They decontaminate colors, which a lot of the time is pretty amazing. In this case, I don't like it, so I'm just gonna go back to the original one I had. A little bit soft on the edges, but I'm okay with that. Pretty cool mask. That layer selected, remember, all I need to do is go Command C, Command V, brings through the layer mask, as well as the image. If you're on a PC, it's Control C, Control V. And this guy here is nice. All right, I hope you enjoyed that tool. It's called Select Subject, but I hope I've made it a little bit more usable when you get results that are subpar. You can fix a lot of it in Select a Mask. And if you've got big chunks that are missing, you can use that quick selection tool. So it's a combo deal. All right, handsome men. Not sure why I ended up with all guys in this one. All looking great masks. I will see you in the next video for a little bit of project work. Hi there, it is class project time. Don't think of it as homework, think of it as ways to practice what you've just learned so that it sinks in there good. Okay, this project is to practice the select subject we learned in the last video. To find this kind of class projects list, you can go into your exercise files and there it is there. It's called class projects. Open it up and we're gonna be starting at this one here, select subject. So the files to use is in a folder called project 0. So I'll show you where they are in your downloaded exercise files in O2 selections. And there it is there, class project 0. Okay, and we're going to be using all 3 of these. I want you to basically just use your skills to mask this one here onto number C. That's a letter C. And do the same thing with this B option here. So basically these 2 models onto this background. So you'll have to use the select subject plus a little bit of the select and mask. Because these are very different kind of shots of models, you're going to have to mess around with this background to get them to kind of, you might have to play with the levels of this one. Use your existing Photoshop skills to try and get them to blend nicely. You might have to blur the background. Up to you. But once you've got them together and you've got a reasonably good mask, I'd love for you to share it. So up here is the ways to share. So the easiest way is on the website here. Go to the assignments part and share what you've done. Sometimes it's easier just to use the comments, but most importantly, share them with me. Okay, share them with me on Instagram, on Twitter, or my Facebook group. If you ask for criticism, I will give you some polite stuff. You can just share it up there and not ask for any criticism and just be proud of what you've done. Practice, practice. All right, go ahead and do your homework and I will see you in the next video. Hi there. In this video, we're going to look at color range to do selections, okay? Selecting bananas, we're going to select blueberries and combine them into this magical scene and eventually into this kind of mess of things that I created to explore color range because it's an often overlooked masking technique. You might have used it to do a specific job, but it can be used for so many things. That's what we'll explore in the next couple of videos. If you've used color range already, go through these videos because there's quite a few little shortcuts and tips we'll use throughout the rest of the course. So let's get started. All right, to get started, let's go to File, let's go to Open. And in your exercise files, there's a folder called Selections and Masking. I want you to open up color range 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to start with color range 1. Now, before we get started, I've picked a pretty easy example. Pretty consistent color. It's going to be a good way to understand color range if you've never used it before. But later in the course, what we'll do is we'll combine color range often with other selection techniques because it gets like maybe 80% of the selection and you'll need to do touch-ups with other selections. And that's going to be a big difference between, say, my essentials course and the advanced course. We're going to start mashing things together where there's times where you can't just do one selection technique. You need to kind of do 2 or 3 or 4. So let's understand color range. Let's go to select and go to color range. Now yours by default probably just looks like that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click anywhere in the banana and it kind of gives us kind of a basic selection of the yellow. Under here where it says select, yours might have defaulted to one of these colors. I find these never work, never ever. So I find it best just to ignore these and go straight to sampled color. Have the fuzziness at about 100. I never really changed that because what happens, right? If I click in here and I increase the fuzziness, basically it's going to reach out and it's quite good. You can see it's going out further, 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 further. But to get the whole banana, it eventually just goes too far and starts grabbing the background. Or in this case, it didn't get any of it. Okay, so I'm going to click around. So the fuzziness just kind of expands the selection. I find I just leave the fuzziness at 100. And what I do is I start with an initial color and then use this little plus icon and click once, click twice, click again. And what you can do is instead of clicking and just keep clicking, you can click, hold, and drag across stuff. Just clicking, holding, and dragging and give it a bit of a color. You'll notice that when I let go, it's grabbed a large chunk of that yellow. It hasn't got these little end parts. I can start clicking on these, but often there's some colors that actually match the background. So I'm just gonna tidy those up with the paintbrush. If you do go too far, say you're clicking in here and you click on something, can you see it started picking the background? Okay, it's a little bit hard to see, I guess, in this video, but I can see it here clearly. I grab the minus tool and then click in the background to get rid of stuff I don't want. Plus, click back in here again. I'm gonna click and drag and give it a wriggle. So it picks up a bunch of colors. Let's click OK, and it's got a pretty good selection. The 2 ends need a little tidy up, but let's add a mask by clicking the Add Mask button. So to tidy up the edges here, make sure you're working on your mask, not your image. Okay, and let's zoom in. Find the edge here, and I'm going to paint this in. So I'm going to try and introduce lots of shortcuts, especially at the beginning, so it makes the rest of this class flow a lot faster. You have to bear with me a little bit in these first few videos to kind of get them into our system so that we can go faster later on. Because what I want to do is, working on the mask, I want to paint this out. And brush size up the top here, I go along here and I drag it up and down and I do this, right? You might know the shortcut of the, I'm going to undo that, the square brackets. Okay, it's next to your P key. That makes it bigger and smaller. But there is a super amazing extra one. Now on a Mac, you hold down the Command key and the Option key. I'll do the PC in a sec because it's quite different. Okay, so hold down Command and Option on your keyboard, and then click and hold down your mouse key and drag it left and right. And that does the size. I love this one. It means I can go really big and really small really quickly. And if I use the up and the down, can you see it does the hardness as well? So it's the same keys held down. I can really get into the right size and the right hardness. If you're on a PC, it's quite different. Okay, you hold down the Alt key on your keyboard, and then you click and hold down and drag the right mouse button, the one you never use. So hold down the Alt key, click, hold, and drag left and right, and you get the same thing. Up and down does the hardness. It's a really weird shortcut, but a really good one to know. There will be a shortcut sheet at the end of this course, okay, like all kind of together in a nice little video. There'll also be a PDF on that same page there, where you can download it and print it off and stick it next to your computer. So I'm on my Mac, I'm holding down Control and Alt, clicking and dragging left and right to get the rough size. And then hardness wise, I love about anywhere between 85 and 95. Especially when I want a straight edge. I never have 100%. Why? Because there's always a little bit of give around the outside. It looks more natural. 100% hardness just looks too fake. Another cool little shortcut is at the moment mine's foreground is set to black. So when I paint this, it kind of does the wrong thing, right? I want to do the opposite of that. So what you can do, another cool little shortcut is the X key on your keyboard. See my foreground and background color here? Okay, if I tap X, just the letter X on my keyboard, it just toggles the foreground and background color. So I want white at the front, and I'm going to paint this out. Smaller brush size, hold down my shortcuts. You can see with a few little shortcuts, you are going to be a retouching master. If you go too far, easy, I can zoom in and X key to switch it to black as my foreground color and just paint that out. I can do the same thing with this bottom bit. I'm going to leave this in here because it looks good in my final composition, but you could now use the same thing, black, and just paint it out. At the top here, there's this bit I want. So I'm going to switch it back to white as my foreground color, X key. You can see how handy it is. One of those ones worth learning. Nice. And that, my friends, is using the color range to mask an image. We had to use a little bit of brush tool to kind of fill in these black parts, but that's just part of Photoshop. Very rarely does a tool do all the work for you. So we're going to do a lot of combinations in this course. What I'd like to do is grab my move tool, click and hold and drag into the number 3 and let it go down the bottom here. And we're going to move it down here-ish. We'll fix it up a little bit more later on. Let's learn a little bit more about color range. Let's go to color range 2. Go back to our select and we're going to go to color range. And two things I want to show you. One is the localized color clusters. What that means is if I grab my eyedropper tool and click on, say I want this guy, but I don't want all of his friends. I just want him plus another fella here. You can see it's gone off and picked them all because they're the same color. That's where that's the localized color clusters comes in. And your range is probably set to 100%. It means it's just grabbing everything. And you lower it down, you can start to see kind of zeroes in on our little guy there. So it doesn't grab everything in the document. Now we're using Fruit. Like this would be super useful if you are, say, trying to select, say you want to do some color adjustments to the lipstick color, but not the shoes, which are quite similar. You could click on the lipstick, lower the range down and make that selection. And we'll ignore the other, say, red things in the document. Or in our case, blueberries. You can add more than one. So hit this little plus icon here and I want you and you. So let's pick 2 of these fellas. I need to tidy both of them up. And that brings me on to the second thing I wanted to show you in here. And is this one here, it says selection preview. Let's be on grayscale because this little window here is far too small for working. And all it really does is that it just duplicates this into the window here. It hasn't changed anything. It's just kind of, yeah, showing us how the selection works. So I'm going to zoom in and this fella here, I want to add some of that, clicking, get in there. Clicking and dragging can be super useful. And if you get too much of the background, okay, I might go in here and say minus, I want to minus a bit of that. Okay, fix up this one as well. Grab the plus key, just kind of drag across there. Grab that bit as well. You can click away to your heart's content or click and drag. I'm going to click this background here. I want to get rid of it. It's pretty good. The range is probably too far now. So I'm going to have to lower that range so that it's picking just this little area in here. It's doing something weird there. Can I minus it out? I can. Nice. All right, let's click OK. Let's add a layer mask. And like I had before, it's done a lot of the blue, but there's some bits I want to touch up. Basically, it got a really good edge, but there's some middle bits that the colors were just too different. So with the mask selected, I'm going to hit B on my keyboard for the brush tool. I'm going to use a lot of shortcuts. If I hover above this, can you see it says the brush tool, and anything in the brackets here means use the B key. Okay, this one here is the V key. You can see it in brackets there. So the ones that you use the most, you'll learn. So you can just go V to move, B for brush. My brush size is okay. Okay, I'm just going to tidy up, oh, not too far, tidy up the bits that didn't get perfectly selected. Same with this one. Nice. Because we're using that localized color, you might find that there might have been some other kind of ghost bits out here you might have to tidy up. Okay, so you could use your X key to make it black and just grab a nice big brush and just kind of tidy up any of these bits that are part of the mask that you don't want. All right, let's click, hold, and drag this little guy. So move tool, drag it to color range 3, and let's dump a couple of blueberries in. Awesome. So that's how to use color range to select physical objects and kind of cut them out onto a white background. Could be great if you are a photographer or you're shooting stuff for a website and you just want to kind of like grab something and put it onto a transparent background or a white background, just delete the background. Color range, especially if there's a color that's very contrast compared to the rest of the document, it can be super helpful and often overlooked in Photoshop. Let's get into the next video. We're going to still use color range, but we're going to use it in a very different kind of way. More for color adjustment. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Hello, my friends. This video, we're going to use color range again, but for a very different use case. Instead of masking, we're going to use it to adjust the colors. And it's something that I do a lot more. Instead of masking, it's more just adjusting things like if you have a look at the leaves, they are kind of a browny green and now, ooh, beautiful green. And let's look at the sea. It's gone from a blue to a kind of a nice tropical holiday cyan color. So basically, we're going to use color range to make a selection of those colors and then use adjustment layers on them just to fix them up. It's a really common way that I use color range. Let's jump in now and learn how to do it. All right, so I'm going to work on the document we used in the last video. If you don't have that or you skipped it, just go to File, Open, and open up your exercise files, and we're using color range 3. But basically, we combined color range 3 with 1 and 2. We've got this kind of like composition now. So what I'm going to do is just turn the eyeball off on both of these guys, okay, which is the banana and the blueberry. And I want the background selected. So I want to change the blues and the greens. Basically every landscape photograph I ever take, I want to kind of enhance the greens a little bit, and often the sky needs just a little bit of Photoshop love. And color range is an amazing, quick and easy way to isolate those things to make those adjustments. Very different from the last video where we were using it to completely mask it. So background layer selected, select, let's go to color range. And depending on what you were last doing, you might have to switch back to none. You might have to turn off localized color, and you get yours looking something like mine. We'll start at 100 fuzziness-ish. I'm gonna work on the sea here, and it's got a very similar color to the sky, so I'm happy to work on both of those. I'm gonna click once in here. You can see it's clicked quite a big chunk of it. Let's switch it to the selection preview to grayscale so we can kind of see it. Now it's grabbed most of the sea except for this chunk here. Grab the plus button and let's add this bit. And it's got most of it. The only trouble is it's got quite a lot of the sky. So I'm gonna lower the fuzziness. Okay, so when I was using my masks, I don't use the fuzziness very often, but when I'm doing this kind of like subtle hue saturation changes, now I'm getting mine down-ish. Now there's no right or wrong, okay, there's no magical number. What you'll find is whenever I'm doing this, I'll do it once and see if I've gone too far or too little, and then come back and change it. So that's worked for me. Let's click on OK. Basically, I've got a selection of all the kind of bluish bits, and I want to make them more cyan. Instead of making a mask on their own layer, the easy way now is to click on Adjustments, and let's click on Hue and Saturation. And what it does is it takes that selection you had and applies it to this Hue and Saturation adjustment layer. So I can turn it on and off and make adjustments to it without destroying the background. We love a bit of non-destructiveness. And all I'm going to do is, I love, blue, skies are blue, but actually they look really nice when they're cyan. They look tropical holiday. So I do that often with all my landscape is I'll go through and just add a bit more of the cyan rather than the blue. How much? Yeah, it's working for me. I might bump up the saturation just a tiny bit. Go way too far. But somewhere in here. Turn the eyeball on, off. So it's just a really easy way to isolate colors, especially generic ones like sky, where maybe making a selection can be quite tough. We're gonna do the same thing for these leaves. Whenever I photograph kind of foliage, it always, I know it should be green, but it always is this kind of like motley brown, yellow color. And that's just the way of the world. But what I want to do for this promotional image, I want it to be a lovely green, a nice rich but believable green. It's the same thing. I'm gonna click on my background layer. I'm gonna grab my select color range. What I might need to do is switch it back to none and then click on one of these. And it's picked, there's so many different kind of green browns going in here. I'm going to click, hold and drag across a few of these where I know it's kind of it's a good representation of the whole document. I'm going to click back into here into grayscale. And for that to work, you actually need to have this eyedropper on the plus. Okay, just clicking and dragging across it with this first tool doesn't work. I'm going to go back to none. I'm going to say you, my friend. I'm going to click and drag across there. And now I'm going to go back to grayscale, and you can see I've got a pretty good selection of this. It's got probably a lot too much of the sand as well. The browns out of the leaves are the same browns that are in the sand. So I'm going to lower the fuzziness a bit. Okay, I'm going to grab my minus eyedropper tool, click once in here, click once again, just to get rid of these sands in here. And we're getting pretty close. All right, let's click OK. Okay, so I've got my selection, same as before. Let's go to adjustments, let's go to hue and saturation. And what I'm going to do is going to yank up the saturation really high, way past where I need it, just so that I can know that I've got the right colors. Okay, so I want to pick a green that's not too that green, okay, not too bluey green. I want something in the middle, nice and rich, and then I can lower this down to kind of make it believable-ish. Let's turn the eyeball on and off on that layer, and you can see what I'm doing here, just moving the kind of brown greens into a bit more lush green. And in trouble with this, I find that this island here is probably oversaturated now. Often color range gets used in a combination. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select on the mask, grab my B key for my brush tool. I need black as my foreground color. Remember, X toggles it back and forth. Brush size, we're going to use our shortcut, and I'm just going to get rid of this. I'm going to make my fuzziness a bit higher because it's quite out of focus. Brush size down. Okay, just to touch this up. I might have lowered the opacity of this brush so it's not such a drastic change, because now I feel like the island is completely brown. Really hard to get in here. I could get in with a really small paintbrush to fix this up, but probably what I'd do is probably just lower the opacity of my brush before I painted it all out and kind of faded it into here. So let's do that before I go. I'm going to go undo a billion times till my island's back. Not too far. There we go. So with this layer selected, with the mask selected, brush tool, I'm going to show you a new little shortcut. We've learned the size left and right, up and down for the hardness. Another cool one is see the opacity. So if you look at your keyboard, the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along the top, not the ones on the number keypad, you might not have one of those, but the ones that are above the letters on your keyboard. Watch up here where it says opacity. If I type the 2 key, it goes to 20%. 5 is 50%. 9 is 90%. 0 is back to 100. Weird. If you want to do it super fast, like 5, 5 together, you see it changes the opacity here. So it's just an easy way of picking an opacity without having to go, jump up here and slide it up and down. You see what I'm doing here? I'm just not getting rid of it at all. Mainly so I can save the trouble of having to go through and paint out between this kind of crossover of the leaves and the island. I'm going to turn my banana on and my amazing blueberries. And that is an easy way to select a particular hue, often really good for landscapes, so skies and kind of grasses, trees and stuff. Make a selection, and with that selection, you just click on your adjustments panel, and that adjustment takes that selection and turns it into a mask for its own layer. So then you can turn it on and off later on, non-destructively. It's all on its own layer and is awesome. All right, that is it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Hi there, this video is all about using color range to select skin. We're going to make cool little masks like this. So we can isolate the skin and do things like this. Ready? Okay, just to give a bit more fullness to the skin. And if you ask me, do I use this technique to give myself a tan in my profile social media photos? I'll deny it. So as long as you promise not to go out and check my social media photos, I will show you how to use color range to select skin. All right, in your exercise files, open up color range 4 and 5. These images are from Unsplash, and this one's from Scott Walters, and the next one we'll do is from Dan7Kids. Thank you guys. So in color range 4, let's go to select, let's go to color range. And what we're gonna use is the option here that says skin tones. Okay, so we're probably defaulting to sample colors. Let's go to skin tones. If yours is not by default, switch it to grayscale. Turn on detect faces. It looks for basically looks for 2 eyes and then kind of adjusts a little bit. I find sometimes it works really good and sometimes it's not. Just turn it on and off and see if your selection gets better or worse. Then it's playing around with the fuzziness. Okay, obviously too high, it's gonna have too much of the background selected. So I want it to be reasonably high. And it's working okay. There's lots of similar colors in here. So my guess is about 30 to 40% of images, okay, at least portraiture that I've got, this technique will work as good as we're doing here. The rest of the time, there's just too much color in the image that's very similar to skin, and this technique doesn't work. So I want to kind of give you honest examples, I guess. So this one here is pretty good because there's a nice clear definition between the hair and the background on most parts. Same with the shirt, there's a good enough differentiation. It's not perfect, by no means, but there's still a bit of work to do. So let's click OK. So we've got a selection. What I want to do is adjusting skin. It really depends on what you need to do. She has a particularly fine skin tone. They're not blown out. There's no color cast. So what I would tend to do is with the selection is go to vibrance. I just want to like lift it up a little bit. So adjustments, I'm going to use this one here called vibrance. I love vibrance. I'm going to yank it right up to show you what it does. Can you see it added like, I've gone too far, but it's added kind of a lot of fullness to it. So I wouldn't generally have it that high. I'm just doing kind of slight adjustments. So on, off, it's a little hard to see about how far is too far. That's fine. The problem is it's affecting a lot of the rest of the image. You might decide actually that's fine. Nobody's going to notice. But let's say you do want to isolate it just for the face. Now what we can do is use our brush tool to paint it out. And I'm going to show you a nice little extra trick. If you're on a Mac, look down to your keyboard and hold down the Option key. If you're on a PC, hold down the Alt key. And all you need to do is click your mask here. The cool thing about that is you haven't wrecked anything or changed anything or made it black and white. It's just showing you a big version of your mask, which makes it easy to paint. So I've got my brush tool selected. I'm going to pick an appropriate brush size and hardness. I'm going to get mine up to about 87. Make sure black's my foreground color and just kind of paint out. I'm actually going to get a lot bigger. And just paint out the bits I don't want included. So use color range to kind of get started and get a lot of the hard work done, but like so many things in Photoshop, there are just so many like other annoying things that ruin your perfect example. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going around. There's a nice little black bleed around the edges of them. You might not get this lucky, okay, but like I said, it works for enough of the things that I work on to give it a go, because it doesn't take very long, right? I've been teaching you how to do it, and we've only been at this a couple of minutes. Brush size down. Weird straw thing. I think we're close enough to this being okay. The hair here is probably the worst part because it's such a close color to the skin. But now we've just got the skin selected. So we use color range and skin tones to get it kind of started, and then we paint out the rest. There's a lot of this in Photoshop where you get a selection that's pretty close and then you tidy it up with the brush tool. To get it back to how it was before, the same key, so hold down Option on a Mac, Alt on a PC, and just click on the mask again. Now that vibrance layer is only adjusting the skin. You'll see up here it's disappeared, so I can click on the word vibrance and it's back again. Yank up the saturation to give her an ugly suntan. Okay, so I use vibrance just to enhance the colors. If you are finding you might use the same selection on say levels or curves, depending on what you want to do to the skin. I want to show you one last little trick, A, to show you some extra like shortcuts, but B, how I give somebody that this woman here, this girl here has a fine skin palette. Let's say though that it's your profile photo and you're looking pretty washed out or don't have a tan. Let's say tan, that's what we want, some richness in the skin. This is my trick for tans. So what I want to do is first is the shortcut. I want that selection back that we did with select color range and then blacking out the background. So I don't want to have to do all that again. What I can do to get the selection is just hold down the Command key on a Mac or the Control key on a PC and just click on the mask and it loads it as a selection. Super handy little trick. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go adjustments, I'm going to go hue and saturation, I'm going to go to colorize, I'm going to yank up the saturation, and I'm going to find a color, okay, that I want this person to be. So we're going to be in the we don't want them to be red. We want them to be kind of like orangey, okay, orangey yellow. Okay, I have the saturation up high just so I can get my hue right because we don't want them that color. What I also want to do is play around with my blending modes or my layer modes. So with hue and saturation 1, go to normal, and I find this always works with soft light. So it's still too high, but you can see it's blending in a lot more. And I'm just going to lower the saturation until there's something like she had a final color already. So I'm not going to have to do much. Okay, so what I might do is, I wanted to show you here, but I'm going to go quite low because she didn't really need any of this extra color. Let's zoom in, see how orange I've made her. Okay, you got to decide how kind of rich you think they need to be. With this layer selected as well, I'm probably going to lower the opacity a little bit. So it's all about subtle adjustments. You can see they're on. I'm going to turn both of these on, both of them off. So I haven't made much adjustment because the photographer, Scott Walters here, had a pretty nice original image. If you're working on your own work or your own profile photo, you might find that you need to have some of these settings a little bit higher, like vibrance and saturation, just to give yourself a bit of a tan or a bit of healthiness or color. Regardless of how you think my tan on this girl is, you might think I've ruined it. What's important is the technique. So we started with select, color range, and we use skin tones. And like I said, it kind of works really good on about 30 to 40% of images, as long as there's a clear contrast with the background. And then you have to blot out the background with a big paintbrush. We learned the cool shortcut by holding down the Alt key on a PC and Option key on a Mac, just to get that one little layer selected. It makes it so much easier for tidying up masks. Same key down to click it again to turn it off. And the other really important shortcut was the Command key on a Mac, Control key on a PC, and just clicking the mask, and you get it loaded as a selection. And we're going to use that a few times throughout this course. Deselect. The reason I got you to open up color range 5 is that there's going to be lots of examples that just don't work, and this is going to be one of them. So let me show you why. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, select, color range. We're going to pick skin tones, detect faces. Oh, you can see the big problem here is very similar skin tone to her skin, and there's all the stuff in the background that's all very similar. So I can play around with this for a long I like, but really it's not going to give me a great example. We're going to get into something called a channel mask later on, which will do better for this, but I wanted to show you some kind of realistic examples wherein it doesn't work. Love color range when it works. All right, that is it for skin tones and color range. Let's get into the next example. Hi there, this video is going to take everything we've learned with color range and put it into a practical exercise. I felt like we needed this video because learning color range in isolation is great, but often you'll run into issues when you're trying to combine it with a bunch of other things like type here. So we'll do this exercise to kind of flesh out any problems that you will run into in the future, plus it'll allow us to practice what we've learned so far. Are you ready to make a super smoothie ink, well, it's meant to be banana splash thing? If you are, let's get started. All right, so I'm starting with an example from earlier on. You could just jump in and just start with the background color, and you might decide the fruit splash stuff you don't have to actually do. You just want to do the ink with the text. Up to you. But what I want to do is I want to open up the ink splashes. So go to File, Open, and in your folder called O2 Selections, there's one called Color Range 6 and 7. All right, so 6 and 7, just variants of the same kind of ink splash. I'm going to select them. We're going to run into some issues, and I'll show you how to fix them. Then we'll change the colors and get it interacting with the type. So whenever you get ink splashes like this is from Adobe stock and it's on a white background, which kind of sucks. It'd be nice if it was clear cut already, but it's not. So let's work with Color Splash 6. So we're gonna have to use a couple of tools to make this work. Let's start with our good old faithful select color range. We're gonna not use skin tones, we're gonna use sampled colors. We're gonna click in here, and what we might do is hit the plus button, drag across a bit of it. Bit of that as well. You too, you. So we've got a pretty good selection there. If you're just joining us for this video here, just make sure your selection preview is on grayscale. It gives you a good kind of black and white contrast. Let's click OK, and let's turn it into a mask. Now our biggest problem is, can you see there's a white chunk in there? So it's missed that out. So when I turn it into a mask, and I click on this button here, it's cut little holes in here, and you got to decide whether it's worth fixing these up or not. I'm going to, so I'm going to use my, remember our little trick? We hold down the Alt key on a Mac or Option key. No, it is Option key on a Mac, or Alt key on a PC, and click on the mask. Makes it super clear. I'm going to grab my brush tool, which is the B key, and I'm using my super shortcuts, wrong, X. So I'm using white as my foreground color, and I'm just kind of tidying up the bits that are clearly not holes. They are just things that color range left behind. How hardcore am I going to do for this? I'm not super worried because it's, I don't know. I know because I've practiced it already that nobody's going to notice any of these small bits, but I guess I'm just showing you. I'm holding spacebar to click and drag around. You probably knew that already. Yeah, we're getting there. Cool. So move it down. Remember, same key, hold down Option on a Mac, hold on a PC, click on the mask to go back. Now, let's check this to see if we've got a good mask. We're going to dive back into the masking technique we used in the intro version of Photoshop course. It's called Photoshop Essentials, but I want to retouch on it because a lot of people will jump into this advanced class and just not do Essentials and miss out some of the super magic that happened in the Essentials course. So what I'm going to do is with my mask selected, I'm going to click Select and Mask. And what's really cool about this is you can say up the top here, it's beyond black, and you can have the opacity right up so you can see a nice contrast with the background. You might say, Dan, that is a perfectly good mask. And I'd probably, Lazy Dan would say, you are right, and not and just hit cancel and get out of here and use it. But let's say it's the front cover or something and it is going on black, which would be tough. So we've used color range to get here. We use the paintbrush to fill in some parts. Let's try and smooth this out. Smooth is a nice one in this option. So watch this, smooth. Up a bit higher. You can see just kind of like smoothing out the edges, make them a little fuzzy, but that's okay. This image is a little out of focus as well. And that might be enough, right? So a cool little shortcut is the P key. Just tap it while you're in here and it turns the original back on. Original, soft focus version. Original, it's a little bit slow. So just tap the P key on and off to go back to the original where you are at now. Two of the things that I might do is shift the edge just in a little bit. You can see there's still a bit of ghosting around the outside. So shift the edge in a bit, hit the P key. Have I made it better? Worse? It's looking okay. If that doesn't get it, I find decontaminate colors works really well. Watch this. I'm going to put the shift edge back to 0 and just turn on decontaminate colors. You can see there it just kind of fixes up all the edges. It's pretty magic. Now you might remember from the Photoshop Essentials, if I use decontaminate colors, it's going to create a new layer with this mask on it because it does some pretty serious changing of the image. So let's click OK. You can see here, there's the original that I was working on. And because I use decontaminate colors, it says, well, let's just put it on its own layer. Because what you'll find is if I right click and disable this mask, you can see it's done some really crazy stuff to the edges to make it a really crisp, clear selection. It's awesome. We can go back to the original, but that's why you end up with a second layer. Cool, so I'm going to grab my move tool, click, hold, and drag, and go to my weird little banana blueberry smoothie thing. I'm gonna add some text. Okay, before I get into too much coloring for this, so I'm just going to turn all of these off. Now, cool little trick is watch this. If these are all on, you wanna turn all of them off except for the background. Just click the first one, hold, mouse, drag it down. Turn them all back on by clicking and holding and dragging across them. Just a nice little quick way of turning just some of them on and off. So I'm going to add some type. So you can skip along this bit. I'm just adding type. But stick around when we go and change the colors of these paint switches. Actually, what I'll do is I'll get the editor to just fast forward this bit. It's not very exciting. All right, we're back. I put in some fonts. If you're looking for these fonts, they are, this one's Museo Sans Condensed. You can download that from Typekit free, but you're really after this one here, right? This one here is called Machine Script, actually Remachine Script. You can see it there. Now I've included this version of this font in your exercise files. Where is it? It's here under font. Now what you'll see, it says for personal use. So if you want to use this commercially, reach out to the owner of this, Google Remachine Script. You can use something like My Fonts to go and pay for it if you want to use it commercially. So this is the free version to use, but you can only use this personally. I love it though. Such a cool font, huh? Now I stopped here. I added a drop shadow. I picked a color. I wanted to drop in here because I wanted to show you just another little trick. I want both of these to have the same drop shadow with, so if I've applied the drop shadow to super, I can right click anywhere in this kind of gray area. I can say copy layer style, click on smoothies, right click it and say paste layer style. That's a simple but helpful little trick. So now I want to go and recolor this thing, okay? It looks like blood. Strawberry? Nah, it still looks like blood. So I want to make it kind of banana colored. So with a layer selected here, I'm going to go to my adjustments layer. I'm going to play around with hue and saturation. And the trouble with doing this here, if I change the hue, it's going to change the background as well. So what I can do is see this little icon here. It's a little, it's got a really long name, but basically it says only affect the layer just underneath. Okay, so this hue and saturation layer is only affecting my color splash now. So you can see when I adjust it, I need to turn those background colors on. Okay, the green and the blue looks a lot nicer. But anyway, hue and saturation, I'm gonna pick a color, and what you'll find is like yellow, some of the colors are perfect, right? They just work really nice. Let's have a look at yellow. Where is yellow? I can't find yellow. Where are you? There you are. Not too green. See, the problem with this is that the yellow ends up being kind of brownish, or in this case, a little bit green. So what you can say is you can say colorize, crank up the saturation, and then find a color. And you can get close to it, but because of these dark colors, it's just not going to work. So what we're going to do is go back to adjustments and play around with the levels. I want to affect just the layer underneath again, so just the color splash. And what we're going to probably have to do is just play around with these grays in the middle here. So there's just not so much of that dark kind of muddy yellow. Depending on what color you need it to be, you might have to adjust around with the darks and the lights, okay, to get the kind of where you want it to be. But I'm happy enough with that. Now I'm gonna select on this layer here and I wanna shrink it down. So before I shrink it down, I wanna convert it into a smart object so that it doesn't, so it gets protected, right? So it gets kind of wrapped up and I don't lose resolution. So I'm going to right click it, tell it to be a smart object. I'm gonna use my Command T for transform. I'm gonna get it to an appropriate size. And now it's just messing around a little bit of like what don't wanna do that. Undo, Command T, shrinking down, holding Shift, hold down Alt or Option if you're on a Mac. Does it all from the centers, but let's say I want something like that. And I want it to kind of interact with the background. Okay, especially with type, it's probably just easiest to grab, there's my super layer, right? I just want it kind of poking out in front of the R. Instead of messing around with selections and masking and stuff, I'm just gonna cut the R out, move this back. You see what I'm gonna do here, right? I'm going to duplicate this layer. Okay, duplicating a layer, I can right click it and duplicate it. Extra little trick is hold down the Option key on a Mac or Alt key on a PC and just kind of select and move it. Okay, and it makes a duplicate as you're moving it. Okay, I'm gonna grab my type tool, select it all, maybe left align, capital R, back to my move tool. It's gonna drag it behind my ink. So we're not gonna get too fancy with masking this out when it's easy just to separate that text onto its own layer to get this kind of interaction. Now to try and tie in all these different techniques we've used out of color range, we're going to open up a file that we worked on earlier. And it's this one here where we messed around with the skin, remember? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to right click any one of them and convert it into a smart object just so they're all kind of smushed together. I can dive into it, remember, by double clicking it to get inside, but really just so that it's just one unit. I'm going to drag it to our little exercise here. There he is. And because it's a smart object, I can shrink it down without kind of destroying or losing the selection. And again, I want to kind of lean on one of the masking techniques we learned in the earlier Essentials course. For the people that did that one, this is just practice. I promise there won't be too much of this through the course. But for the people just jumping into advanced, it's a trick probably you might not know. First up, with the move tool, I'm going to hold Command Shift and your square bracket to bring it to the top of my layers. If you're on a PC, it's Control Shift, and it's those square brackets that are next to your P key. So hold them both down, and the left one sends it to the back, the right one sends it to the top. It's one I use quite often. Just say all the way at the top, please. I'm going to grab my ellipse tool, and I'm going to draw an ellipse around it. What I find is people tend to use the this elliptical marquee tool to do round selections, but it's not what I want. It's not better. There is a better way, and this is the way. So I've got my image at the top, I've got my ellipse just underneath, and if I hold down the Option key, so with this top layer selected, the long way we learned in the Essentials course is we went to Layer and we went to this Create Clipping Mask. And I'll show you, that works totally, okay, but I'm gonna show you the pro way. All you do is hold down the Alt key on a PC, Option key on a Mac, and just hover your mouse in between this layers. And you're looking for that icon. So not that, not that, this. Just click on it and it does the exact same thing as going to Layer, Create Layer Mask. It's just a real quick way of doing it. And the cool thing about doing this as a mask is that these are totally separate. I can move my ellipse around, or I can move my image around. I can select both of them by clicking the top one, holding Shift in the second one, and just transform them both. And I'm gonna get something like that. Maybe a bit lower down here. I'm gonna turn on my banana. I'll send them to the top using my shortcuts. Scale them down. Now, before I scale them down, I'm going to convert them into a smart object. You can leave now. Now I'm just kind of trying to turn it into something half decent in terms of a design, which is going to be hard. There's that, blueberries. Where are you, blueberries? There you are. You need to come to the top as well. Might actually duplicate that. Remember our trick of holding down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC to get two of them, transform them, rotate them. So we've got a few extras. I might put that under the word smoothies. Oh, creative genius. Now duplicate that super, bring it to the top. This one's going to be banana flavored. Banana. Just going to use white text. Thank you. Make it smaller. Command T. I very often don't use font sizes. Okay, I'll use just scaling it to get the right font size. Depends really if we're working with digital or going to kind of print. Print will have to be a little bit more specific with font sizes probably. This is more of a splash social media graphic. Cool. And last thing is that it is way down to the bottom, okay, with all the extra graphics. So I'm going to select this bottom one, hold shift and click this top one and just grab the whole lot. And because they're all on the layer masks and all on their own layers, nothing smushed together because we're pros, I can lift it up. How impressed with this am I? Bro, it looks kind of cool. Let's just say I did a practice example of this and it looks better than that one. So I'm happy. Don't think I like the color of the pink. That, my friend, is a personal choice. Let's finish this here before I waffle on forever. The goal of this video really was to show you how you end up using kind of combinations of tricks. Color range is awesome, but only when you start using it with other things, other techniques, other tips, other shortcuts. That's where you go from a beginner to an advanced user. All right, so that's us. We'll leave it there. Let's get into the next video where we'll set a project for you to do. I'll see you there. All right, it is class project time. Don't think of it as boring homework. Think of it as exciting ways of testing your skills. Because I promise you, following along with me step by step is good, but I've taught for a long time, and the people that take that little bit of extra time to kind of put it into practice with their own projects, other people that remember it for a lot longer. If you do want to go even further than that, the best way to remember it for a very, very long time is to teach somebody else. So maybe a friend or a family member, or back at work, you might show somebody. But anyway, the class project is this. If you go to your exercise files, there is a Word document in there called class projects. Open that up. And here is the project we're working on now. It's called color range. Basically, we're just taking this example and making an orange version. Okay, so instead of banana, there'll be an orange one. So the requirements are this. The first requirement is use these images. Okay, they are in your exercise files under O2 selections. There is class project 1. In there are the files that you're going to use. So use all 4 of these. Start with this background or pick another background. I don't mind. I want you to do a selection like we did with the banana exercise with this orange. There are 2 kind of paint splashes in here that I'd like you to mask using the techniques we did in the last video, but I want you to make them orange. So make it orange flavored, use your own fonts. I'd like you to show me an example where the text kind of goes in and out. You see here where the splash goes behind this letter, but in front of that. That's one of the requirements as well. You don't have to use this image, you could. But when you finished it, you can post it as a project on this website here, or at the top here, there's the kind of like social media places you can send them to me. So Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook group. The links are all in here in this class project. I'd love to see what you make. So do the homework, send it to me. Let me know if you'd like some criticism. I'll make sure it's friendly. All right, go off now and make your own orange smoothie poster. Hi there, this video we're going to look at adding a mask to a group. Basically we just add it to this group here so that things that are inside, you can see, okay, are all just masked by this one banana mask that we've made. We don't have to apply to all the different layers. If you've done it before, there's going to be a few extra little tricks like a little color range trick, a shortcut for blending modes. Plus we'll add some shadows to it to kind of make it look more realistic. Lots of value in this one. We'll start with just the simple mask and move our way through. All right, to get started, let's open up our files, and it is in the O2 selections and masking folder. We're going to open up group mask 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's open all of those up. Now, throughout this video, you're probably going to hear some construction because I've been waiting all day for them to finish so I can record. There they are there. They are not going to finish anytime soon, so we're just going to have a little tapping and banging in the background. So let's start with group mask 1 PSD. Remember him? The banana. We use color range to select them, and like you saw at the beginning, we're going to kind of combine them inside that shape. Cool thing we're going to learn is if you're on a Mac, hold down Command key. Okay, if you're on a PC, just hold down the Control key. And if you click on the mask, it loads that mask back into a selection. You can see the little ants running around, which is cool. Another cool little tip you might not know about is you can go to select and you can save selections. Sometimes you spend like all day kind of getting halfway through a selection and then you have to go. You can actually save this thing. So I'm going to call it banana. I'm going to click OK. Because what I want to do is I'm going to go select, deselect, and I'm going to turn that mask off. So I'm going to right click where the layer mask is and say, let's delete that layer mask. That hard work all gone. But don't worry, because we've saved it in that selection. So what do I want to do? Let's just get started quickly so you understand the concept. So I'm going to go to group mask 2, and my Command C, Command V doesn't work with this. Man, it's always the bane of our life, right? The locked one. So just double click the word background, click OK. Now we can use Command C, Command V. And we have far too big strawberries. I'm going to shrink them down, and I'm just going to kind of put them, where am I going to put them? About there to get started. Let's grab group mask 3, do the same thing, unlock the background, or you can just do your drag into the tab option. I'm using the Command C, Command V. Scale it down to kind of an appropriate size. I'm just doing halves and halves now. It's not going to look perfect yet. I guess I want to get the concept through first and then we'll go and finish it off. So I've got these two here. Now what we've done in the past and what you might have done like me is you're going to add a layer mask to every one of these images. So let's go to select, load selection. Where are you? Load selection. Go to channel, go to banana, and there's my selection pack. So with that selection, you have that layer selected and you go U, and then you do the same thing. I'm going to use that cool shortcut where I command click or control click the mask. Go on this layer, click on a layer mask, and it works, right? But you end up with like loads of these, and sometimes if you're trying to make a kind of a collage, you'll end up with a zillion different masks. And that's not the pro way. So we're gonna go a step backwards until all that's gone. What we're gonna do is, I'm just gonna make a layer group here. I'm gonna call this one banana mask. Not sure why I say banana that way. And we're gonna stick these two guys in it. So select both of them and just drag them and click them on top of the folder so you know they're in there. You know they're in there by you turning the eyeball on and off of the folder. And now the cool thing is with this layer selected, I can go to my select, load selection, banana, click OK. And if I apply the layer mask to that group, okay, they're all inside there, all happy in there. So it's just an easy way. Now I can grab the blueberries, drag them in, go back to my old ways of selection. Can you see, because it's just inside this group, they all just come along for the ride. Now you can skip ahead now. We're going to do a little bit, I'm going to show you some extra tricks, but if you came for the masking on a group, you're satisfied, you can move on. There's going to be some cool extra tips coming. So I'm going to delete these two guys. The stories are going to kind of like fill the background part somewhere like that. I'm going to go to my group 3. Now how would I select these guys? Color range won't work because there is all this white pith in the middle. I'm not sure what you call that stuff, but it's the wrong color. So what we're going to do is use the quick selection tool, and I'm going to kind of do a reverse selection. So we're going to use the quick selection tool. I'm going to make my brush a bit bigger, and quick selection tool will be perfect for this. I hope. I've already practiced. That's pretty amazing. I'm going to make it a layer mask. I'm going to go back to my move tool. I'm going to go Command C on a Mac or Control C on a PC. Jump back to this original here, and I'm going to paste it. Cool. Probably going to resize it a little bit, but before I do, right click where it says layer 2, make sure it is a smart object. So when I shrink it down, I don't lose that lovely resolution that's in there. Turn on my keyboard. Let's now do the blueberries. Okay, we've played with this one before. I'm going to show you another little color range trick. In the last video, I was reluctant to make like a 5th video on color range, so I thought I'd throw it in here. So go to select color range. And what you can do is, watch this, if I click on the actual blueberries and I click on plus and I add a few more to them and I try and play with fuzziness, that works to a degree, and it works really great when we're doing our localized colors, okay, because we just wanted these two. But when you want the whole lot often is I'm going to go to this first eyedropper, click on the background. So in this selection, we're going to be selecting the background, but then just inverting it. So I'm going to add the little plus, and I'm going to say a little bit of you in there. And it's going to work for me perfect. Let's click OK. If I mask it now though, it's the wrong way around. So I'm going to undo and just go to select inverse. Now I'm going to add my layer mask. There's a few little holes in it from the white parts. We'll learn another little trick in a minute called a channel mask, which will really fix this one up. But for the moment, we're using the tools that we got. That's one worth mentioning. I'm going to copy it, jump back to the beginning here, paste it. I'm going to shrink it down a bit. There we go, blueberry goodness. You can see here some of the centers are showing through to the orange. So I might just grab the mask, grab my brush tool, shrink it down, and paint it with white just to fill in these guys, nice and easy little drops. All right, so that should be the end of this one. What I want to do though is I really want to add some shadows to it. And when I was practicing, I guess I want to show you the trouble I ran into. You can skip ahead now. There's not anything to do with masking left. I just want to show you how to add some shadows to it. A little bonus chapter. So what I normally do, and we did this quite a bit in the Essentials course, is I just grab this layer, I duplicate it by dragging it onto this like new layer icon here, drag it to the top, come on, and there, double click in here, I'm going to call it shadow, name at least 2 of my 6 layers. I desaturate it by going Command Shift U on a Mac or Control Shift U on a PC, or here's the long way under Image Adjustments Desaturate, just gets rid of the color. Otherwise it looks weird when you start using blending modes, right? Kind of colors everything. So if I desaturate it first, normally what I can do is just go multiply, and often that works. Cast the shadows on the background. But because the photographer of this banana kind of spent a long time lighting it and making it look great with no real strong shadows, I'm missing them from what I need it for. So I'm gonna have to kind of accentuate. What I really want is this line through the middle. I feel like that gives the banana its banana characteristics, plus these little end pieces. But I also want some kind of shading around the outside to give it some volume. And I'll show you the tricks that I use to do that. So I've desaturated the layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the burn tool. Remember, the burn tool makes things darker. And you're going to have to play around with the range up the top here. I'm going to play with shadows, exposures up to 100%. You'll have to play around with these settings depending on what you're working on. But I've got a brush size here. Can you see if I'm working with shadows? Just going to accentuate those shadows. I want really bring that out. I'll do the same with that. I want that to be nice and strong. That's already probably fine. I won't do him anymore. Of course, that's a strong line here. I want to do the same for the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make the brush bigger. Maybe lower the opacity a little bit or the exposure. And in this case, the midtones is what I want to do. And you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm just trying to like give it some volume around the outside. I'm just clicking and dragging slowly. Maybe a slightly smaller button. Just to give it some depth. I'm not spending too long. All right, so now we've got some kind of strong colors. I want to get rid of the midtones. I just want these black bits left. So the easiest way to get rid of midtones is to use levels. So with this layer selected, I'm going to use, doesn't really matter if you use adjustments or the other one, I'm going to use adjustment layers because we are being super professional. I'm going to make sure the levels only affect the layer underneath. So levels only affect the shadow by clicking that button there. Now I'm just going to work with this, not to make it look better, but to try and get rid of the kind of mid-tone grays. You can see just yanking up, there's a white slider here, playing with the gray slider, darken this up. So this is what I'm trying to do, right? Just add shadows. Cool. Now I'm going to click on my shadow layer and then just work with the layer modes and figure out which one's going to work. Let's go to multiply. It's often, you can see it there. Multiply is quite good. I'm going to work my way through. And if you are like me and you hate doing this, ooh, that looked good though. You know, going through them all and going, man, this just takes forever. You just don't, right? So the shortcut for cycling through these, okay, it's a cool little shortcut. You have to be on your move tool though. For some reason, that only works when you're on your selection tool. Sorry, the move tool. And you hold down the shift key on your keyboard and tap plus. Plus again, plus again. Okay, so holding down shift, tapping plus, that's Mac and PC, just cycles through them. Super useful, helpful tool. Now I'm actually looking, so multiply is good. Linear burn is okay. Should really have checked this before you watched. Let's turn it on and off. Can you see what I mean? I want to kind of add that little bit of realism in there. All right, one last thing before I go. I've just noticed that this is kind of spilling over here. So I'm going to click on my layer mask, and because they're all in the same group, ties it back nicely. Nice work, Dan. Work on the layer mask. Make sure black is my foreground color. I'm going to make the brush size nice and big and fluffy. I'm just going to kind of ease it in there. There you go. Bit of reflection. All right, so thanks for hanging around for the bonus shadow section. We learned a really simple thing at the beginning there, just putting a mask on an actual layer group and then throwing everything inside of it. All right, that is it. Let's get into the next video tutorial. Hi there, it is time for another selection tool in your arsenal, and it is the mighty channel mask. It's been around a while, and it's perfect for when you need to select, say, out of focus grass like this. There we go, easily done. But let's say you already know how to do a channel mask. Don't worry, there's some stuff in here for you as well. Imagine if there was a brush where you could just kind of like paint across and remove all the ghosting. It is true, my friends. This brush exists, and I will show you in this next tutorial. Let's get in there. Let's make it even better. We're gonna love the brush. First up, let's open up our files. They're in our O2 selections and masking, and it's all of these guys. It's channel mask 1 all the way through to O5. Quick little tip before we get going. If you hold down Control and hit Tab, okay, on your keyboard, you can cycle through the open tabs along the top here. That works on both formats, Mac or PC. But what we really came here for is channel masks. And just quickly before we get started, up until Photoshop released the select subject and the select and mask function, all I did for kind of advanced masking was channel mask, the thing we're gonna do now. Because these two options that we learned previously are so good, I don't use channel mask half as much anymore. Basically, I use them for the same sort of principle. I need kind of like, say this kind of out of focus, what would normally be here, but this, okay, these two here in combination are so much better now, in my opinion. The reason I still use channel mask and the reason I still include it in this advanced course is because if we click select subject, it tries to find a person's face and there is no face to be found. Okay, so couldn't find subject, click OK. So there's times where I want to select all this grass, but it's super hard, right? Quick selection tool is not going to do it. Magic Wand's got no hope. I might do okay with a color range, but there are some perks to a channel mask, and you need it in your arsenal to be an advanced Photoshop user. You don't want to turn up at the advanced Photoshop party and not know what a channel mask is, even though it's getting used less. It's kind of one of those badges of honor like the lens flare was when you were new. So how does this work? I'm going to do it super quick, half to impress you, half to show you how quick it is once you get into the flow, then I'll back it up and go a bit more step by step. So basically we go to the channels panel, we pick one of these three, okay, the one that has the most contrast. Blue does. So I'm going to right click it, duplicate it, click OK, turn this on, that off. Then I use levels. And I'm just trying to accentuate the contrast between the background and the foreground. Okay, I'm lifting this up, trying to find this kind of medium ground here. Once I click OK, I can blot in the stuff at the bottom here. I'm using my paintbrush tool, set to normal. I'm using black, I'm making it nice and big. I'm just gonna kind of paint it all out. Make it a bit smaller, get some of this stuff in there. Spend a little bit more time. I'm not. Turn it into a selection. Go back into my layers panel and add a layer mask. First of all, reverse it out, invert the selection and add a layer mask. And you can see that will totally kind of freak you out how fast it went there. But I guess I just want to show you the flow that I'm going through when I'm doing selections for something like this and how easy it can be. Because when I teach this live, often people freak out because there are quite a few steps. And don't worry, you won't probably remember them off by heart. I only remember them because I'm a trainer and I have to teach it all the time. When I was just freelancing, I would go, okay, channel masks, they're good. Come back to this video and just run through it every time you need to do it. And that's just the way it is. There's a few steps involved, but the results are pretty cool. Let me grab this and add it to the background here. You can see a pretty convincing mask with very little effort put into getting it perfect. So let's back it right up. I'll show you a cool little trick is File Revert. Because we only have so many undos, right? So if you go to File Revert, it goes all the way back to when the document was last saved. And in this case, it's way back before I did all my channel madness. Let's look at it step by step and explain it a little bit. So it's channels that do the heavy lifting here. Basically a channel is just, this document is RGB. You can see it up here in the tab. And that just means the computer makes all of these lovely colors out of a mixture of red, green, and blue. Now we're really not worried about channels at the moment. We're just going to use and abuse them to get our selection. And what you're doing is you're looking through all three of these for the one that has the most contrast. In this case, blue has a really clear contrast with the background. It's not always the case. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's green. So toggle through them all. Once you've found one, you've got to duplicate it. Right click it, duplicate channel. I'm going to call it my mask for no reason. And I'm going to turn it on and turn that one off. I don't want to destroy the red, green, and blue. I just want to work on this, my special little mask. We're going to delete it in a second. So with it selected, we're going to go to levels. So image adjustment levels. We're not going to use the fancy adjustment levels. We're going to use old school destroy the layer levels, these ones here. And all we're looking to do is, you can see the sky here, it's quite gray still. So I want to kind of increase the whites. Basically, you adjust these guys any way you like. All you need to do is have a really strong white versus black. So that's all I'm doing, is drag them left and right and just see, like if I go too far this way, it starts kind of bleeding in. There's a little bit of like, I've done this so many times that I kind of got a good feeling. What you might have to do is get to this point and say, all right, I'm going to try this and then come back if it's not quite right. Okay, I'm going to crank the blacks up just a little bit as well. And I should point out, I'm looking at the edge between this and this. I'm not worried about here, because you saw earlier on, I just blacked that in with a big paintbrush. It's this edge, this contrast between the background and the foreground here that I want to, I guess, get as sharp as I can. That feels okay. Click OK. Now what I want to do is kind of fix this bottom stuff here, because I'm going to use my paintbrush. Where are you there? Set it to black. What kind of hardness? Somewhere in there, 80. I'm just going to paint this in black. Okay, I'm going to do this to down the bottom here quite rough, and then as I get closer, I'm going to lower my brush and get a little bit nicer about the whole experience, because I know that that is not a hole looking through. I know that's the sky, okay, but I know this is just light that's reflecting on the grass. So I'm going to go in here and just kind of fix this up a little bit. We'll go through in after we do this exercise to show you a few extra little tricks to tidy this up a little nicer. But you saw the end result here. I put in less effort and it came still with a really good result. Channel masks are awesome. All right, so I got the basics in there. Now what I want to do is load it as a selection. Okay, you can click on this little icon down the bottom here and it loads that black versus white as a selection. Now this guy here his job is done. I'm going to click on RGB to turn all of these on. Just make sure the eyeball is off on the mask, or you can bin it. Like, we just don't need that anymore. People get a little caught up on that channel being part of it. Really, we just used it to get our little marching ants here. Back to layers. At the moment, we have the sky selected. It really depends on your image. Sometimes you'll have it the right way around, sometimes you won't. If I click on layer mask here, it's the opposite. So I'm going to go to select inverse and now add my layer mask. And hey presto, you can see it was pretty bad along the top there, and it's still a pretty good mask. I'm going to grab my move tool. I'm going to go Command C, Command V on my Mac. Actually, I'll probably do it the other way around. I'm going to drag U here, use my little shortcut, Command Shift square bracket, send it to the back, Control Shift square bracket on a PC. You can see a pretty convincing mask. Let's look at a couple other things you can do with channel masks to get the most from them. Let's go to channel mask 3. And I lie, we're not going to do channel mask 3 together because it's very similar to this first one here. I'm going to set that as your homework in the next video. You can do it now and pause if you want. What I want to do is let's go to channel mask 4 and 5. These are the ones that I'm going to combine. You saw them at the beginning. We run into the same problems. We can't use select subject. But we're probably going to use a little bit of select and mask just to kind of push this a little bit further. So same thing as before, channels. I use these shortcuts here. If you're on a PC, is it Control 3, 4, 5? Check whatever the shortcut is there. So I'm holding down on my command key and going 3, 4, 5. I'm not looking, I'm just toggling through them all, just seeing. And don't worry about down here. You're looking at the transition between the sky and the background. And they're all really similar actually, because the background is pretty much white. I feel like that's my one. You could argue all three of those ones. So I'm going to duplicate it, duplicate, well, don't delete it, duplicate it. Gonna give it a name? I'm not gonna give it a name because we're gonna bin it in a second. So nobody's gonna know we didn't name our layers. So with boo copy selected, all the rest of them off. Otherwise you get this kind of weird colors going on. Make sure it's selected. And remember, we're gonna go to our levels and we're just looking to increase this contrast. So I'm gonna zoom in a bit and I'm just looking at, if we go too far, you'll end up with this, it bleeds over the edge and looks a little not very good. Okay, so I'm gonna increase the white a little bit to get the sky pure white. I feel like that's a pretty good one. Looks like it's pretty strong black versus white. Click OK, I'll zoom out, and I'm gonna blot in the bottom here using my brush tool. Nice big brush. We're gonna add a little bit extra to this one, I promise. So we've got a selection, we're gonna load it as a selection. We're gonna click on RGB. You can leave that there, there's nothing wrong with leaving it there. Go to channels, inverse the selection. I'm using the shortcut Command-Shift-I on a Mac. That's Control-Shift-I on a PC. And I've applied the layer mask. Now let's go and add it to our background. So actually I'm gonna bring this guy in to the other one. So move tool, you come in here, friend. Wanna know a cool extra little shortcut? You don't have a choice, I'm gonna show you anyway. When you're dragging from one image to another and you kind of like, it ends up in weird places, right? If you do that exact same technique, so move tool, drag, 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 hold in the shift key when you let go. And it doesn't put it willy-nilly, it puts it exactly kind of top left. Really handy. Okay, mildly handy. I'm gonna move it underneath and you can see it did a pretty good job, but because I've gone for such an extreme background, okay, it's gone from light to dark, you can see the kind of ghosting around the edges. So I'll show you two ways of fixing this type of thing. One you've learned before, one you haven't. So I'm gonna click on my layer mask. Even though we started with a channel mask, okay, we dove into the channels and messed around in there, we can still click on the mask and go to select a mask. I'm making sure mine's against on black, and you can play around with the radius. In this case here, shift edge is probably gonna work. It doesn't work great though, okay? It works kind of too far down into the image here. So I'm gonna hit cancel. What I wanna do is show you a cool little trick, and it's to use your paintbrush, paintbrush B key, and to switch it from normal to overlay. I'm gonna make it appropriate brush size. I'm gonna make it kind of fuzzy there, make it a little bit bigger and try and impress you. Look how good that is. I loved it when I found this option. Instead of trying to control it all with select and mask, you can just use your brush tool with overlay and just kind of tidy up the edges. It doesn't have to be a channel mask you've started with. It can be with any mask. All it really does is gets rid of the kind of in-between zones. So let's undo that and kind of have a look. If you hold down the Alt key on a PC or Option key on a Mac and click on the mask, it just shows you in black and white, which is handy, right? I'm on overlay, I'm on brush tool, black is my foreground color, and watch this. Can you see it just like shrinks it in, or at least gets rid of the kind of gray areas? Can you see there's white here in the middle and there's black there, but there's this kind of like little bits of gray. And that's what the overlay option is doing as a brush. I'll zoom out. I'm gonna hold down my Option key on my Mac, Alt key on a PC, go back in here and just kind of fix that up. Nice. One thing I might want to do as well is you can use that same key. I'm gonna go back into here. You can see there's some like see all this kind of gray area down here. You can do the opposite. Just flick it over to white, make an appropriate brush size, and you can do some pretty kind of easy fixes. And you can see you can get quite close to the edge without wrecking it. If you're just using a white paintbrush, it can be a little tricky. So we're trying to go fast. This tool is perfect for it. Here we go. Tidy it all up. Jump back out, back in. It's looking pretty cool. All right, so that's gonna be it for channel mask. Actually, one last bit. Let's use that same little tool back here at the beginning, click on the mask, and we're gonna use our brush tool, overlay. I've set it to black now, and I'm gonna lower the opacity just a little bit. If you've got the brush tool selected, the opacity, you can drag it down, that's fine. But cool little trick is just to tap 2 on your keyboard, 4, you can see it's changing up here, 6, that's 7. Okay, so I'm gonna just lower it down to maybe 30% and just kind of work these edges a little bit. There's a couple of fluffy bits that maybe aren't super realistic. And now we're actually finished. So that is a channel mask. Maybe bookmark this video. I know when I was learning channel marks, they're super cool, but really hard to remember what to do. It's quite process driven, but there you go. All right, let's get on to the next video. All right, I've got an exercise for you to practice with, also a shortcut. Now, I'm not sure if this is Mac or PC only. I don't have a PC here to test it on, so leave a comment to let me know whether it works on PC. So I've got my Finder open here on my Mac, and I want to open up the project file, so class project 2. I'm going to select both of these, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start dragging, hold down Command Tab. Command Tab, if I just hold Command down and just cycle through all the open programs. Okay, and before I let go to go to Photoshop, I just kind of drag it into it and let go. Is that a shortcut? It is for me. Maybe it's not for anybody else. You can also do the same thing if I undo by dragging it down here, just dragging it down here into the dock and into the actual icon for Photoshop. That works as well. But I'm hoping this whole thing works for PC as well, because I know you can hold down maybe the control key and hit tab to do it. You'll have to help me out because I couldn't find it online. Anyway, we've got the things open. What I want you to do is mask using your channel mask. Amazing skills, mask this thing out and stick it in front of the sunflower. Okay, let's look at the requirements. Use those images, cut out we'll use the channel mask to get started, but you can use the selector mask and the brush tool. Remember we set it to overlay to kind of fix the edges. You'll have to adjust the levels of probably the grass or the background just to get them to look believable. And then take a screenshot and share it with me, either in the projects here or on social media, which is all at the top. Good luck, advanced Photoshop user. I will see you in the next video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to click two buttons, Select and Focus Area. It's great for selections because it's blurry background, sharp object. It does a pretty amazing job at just grabbing it. There's a little bit of work to do, and I'll show you how to do that in this video. I'll also show you how to take that same selection, kind of something in focus, and turn it into an adjustment layer. You can see the hydrant there, just kind of, instead of masking it, we're using it for adjustment layers. I'll also show you some harder things where it's in focus and out of focus, but the hand's not, but I'll show you still how to get a good selection. I'll show you when it goes absolutely horribly wrong and you end up with stuff like this and how to get around it. And then at the end, we'll do a little project where we cut this out and we stick it onto this background semi-believably. Oh, look at that, there's shadows and all. So you and me, my friend, are going to continue on the selection path and learn how to use focus area together. Let's jump in. All right, to get started, let's open up the files we're going to use. It's in O2 selection still, and go to focus area 1, 2, 6. Open up them all. All right, so we're going to start with 6. I want you to be prepared for amazingness. The reason this works is because there is a really shallow depth of field. Background's blurry, but the subject, in this case a flower, is in focus, so it works perfect. And what we'll do is we'll work our way through. I've got some ones that are really easy through to ones that are quite hard. Now also note that this technique is just the starting. Like, remember subject? It was great, but then we went to the selector mask to fix it up. It's the same for this technique. It does a lot of the heavy lifting, 80% there, and then we use selector mask to tidy it up. So kick back, relax, and be amazed. Cool, huh? Now you can see the edges are a bit off. We can fix that up with select and mask. You can jump straight to that from here, which is cool. You might have to adjust the focal range. Okay, so lower is a bit more exact, so it's looking for sharper parts of the image, and if you raise it higher, it's a bit more forgiving and goes, oh, do you mean this, this, and this? This one's pretty easy because it's very clear. Background's very blurry, foreground is very sharp in comparison. Things you will have to do is, you can see here, it doesn't really know what to do with this thing in the middle. So you've got these two options. You can add to the selection or remove. Okay, so basically think of this as the quick selection tool. We looked at it earlier over here. Okay, so same technique. You don't have to like paint it all the way in, just kind of click a little bit and it goes off and tries to race around and find what you mean. And that's pretty much all for this particular one. Let's click select and mask. So now we're back into that window that we've used quite a few times. Okay, it's over here. Remember our global changes. We can use our refine brush, so whatever you want to use now. In this case, radius around the edges. It's doing a pretty nice job. I'm viewing mine against, what is it? It's against white. Check it against black. Not on black. Sorry, on black. Looks nice. On white looks good. Awesome. And what am I going to do with it when it's finished? I'm going to output to a selection. No, I'm going to output to a layer mask and then click OK. Cool, huh? Let's look at some harder ones. Let's jump to focus area 2. Now you don't always want to make a complete mask like we did in this one here. Sometimes we just want to grab an area to play around with things like the levels or change the colors. So let's do the same technique, but let's look at using an adjustment layer instead. So same technique, select focus area, kick back, relax. You can do the adjustments here. It's pretty good. I'm going to add that bit and use minus to minus in there. And just think of it, remember, like the quick selection tool. There's a little bit down here to add. There's a couple of bits down here. If you find it hard to like check what's missing, what's not, play around with these different ones. So on black, okay, overlay, just try these different ones so you can see clearly what's maybe missing and see white on black on white is pretty good here. So I'm gonna add that, I'm gonna add that, and we've got a good start. You can play around with soften edge, and it does, but it's just kind of like just a one tick where you can go into select a mask, and because we are super advanced, awesome people, we get to use all of these features to make it quite sweet. Okay, so which one am I going to use? On black looks pretty clear. Okay, and radius. Yeah, it's working nice. Maybe just smooth it out a little bit. You don't see me using feather or contrast much. It's just preference. Have a play around with them. It does, I'm going a bit high, but it kind of feathers the edge. That might be exactly what you need. There's no right or wrong really in here. The cool thing about it is there are only about, what, 6 or 7 options to play around with. So experiment on your own. When it's finished, instead of going to a layer mask, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say stay as a selection because, let's click OK. Now it's just a lovely selection. Now if I go to my adjustments panel and say do levels or curves, if I do levels, you can see it turns my selection into a mask on my adjustment layer, which is levels. Hasn't touched the background now. So now with the levels here, I can go through and I'm just going to kind of balance it out a bit. I want to be really subtle in these tutorials, but it's hard when you're being subtle because you can't see what I'm doing on the video often. So you can see what I've done there. I've just darkened it up a little bit. But I just wanted to show you an extra way of using focus area. Okay, grab the stuff that's really close and really work on it. Maybe the same thing with vibrance, okay, instead of levels or a bit of both. Now let's look at some problematic uses and how to get around them. I find this is the most valuable stuff because not always you're going to get a perfect kind of flower on its own. So focus area 3. So this image has probably the biggest problem is that it is quite, it's got a really high ISO or grain, okay, that is kind of in the image. So it's kind of all over it. So it does find it hard to like break away from like what is sharp and what is blurry because of that grain. So I'll show you a couple of ways of getting around it. So let's go to select, let's go to focus area. If you can hear 90s dance music in the background, the construction workers that have left from yesterday have now been replaced with shop fitters who love the 90s dance anthems, which is cool. Not so good for you and me recording. So enjoy the backing music. You probably can't hear it. It's probably just me. So you can see here under against white or on white, it's just kind of grab this. This is the only bit I could really find that's really sharp. You might find with a really grainy image that this image noise level kind of up and down will help. Drag it up, drag it down, see if that fixes it for you. I'm yet to find it useful for me too much, but I should show you because I haven't used it enough to say it's like good or really bad. Give an adjustment, it's an easy slider. So what we're gonna have to do is there's just a big chunk of hand missing, and the options up here are on black, black and white, so it's not very handy to know what else I need to select. The only one that really works is overlay. Okay, overlay allows us to see a kind of a ghost of the background. There's no kind of opacity slider like we have in selected mask. So just pick overlay, and then let's grab the plus, and I'm just gonna kind of click along and let Photoshop do its magic. Oh, Photoshop, you're so good, look at that. I just do little bits, freaks out my computer a little bit, but also using the quick selection tool, I find, doing smaller little chunks is easier. This bit here is a little harder. Minus. Hold down the Option key on a Mac instead of coming up here to minus, or Alt key on a PC to change it to minus. All right, we're not going to spend too much longer in here, but there's 2 ways of kind of working through it. You can play around with the noise level, but also just add and subtract to the mask, and it's easiest done when you're on overlay. So I'm going to go to select a mask. I always go through select a mask to tidy it up. You might go, nope, I'm just going to go straight to being a layer mask. Awesome, job done, and you're happy enough with it. And then later on, you might come back and click on the mask and then go to select a mask to get back to where I kind of go directly. And I'm going to smooth the edges, maybe smut overlay. And in this case, I'm probably going to need to use not this first one, not this one here. I'm probably going to have to use just the plain old brush tool because this bit here, the computer's not going to be able to work out the difference between the backgrounds. Let's go back to Marching Ants. Actually, because we're in here, we can lower the opacity of that black, okay, on black, just to make it easier to see what's in the background here. And because we've got this brush tool here, if I make it bigger, hardness is, I like it between 85 and 95, and hold down the Option key and just kind of paint it out. Maybe it needs to be, the fuzziness needs to be a little bit lower, or hardness needs to be lower. Okay, just to give it that kind of blur with the background. Yeah, there's probably this one down here. Actually, I'm okay with that. It's pretty amazing though, eh? There's a hole in the middle. If you are getting through this course, you're like, I can't remember, how did you do the red thing again? If you're on a Mac, hold down the Control and Option key. Just hold them down and then click and hold your mouse, drag left and right, up and down. Gives you size and hardness. If you're on a PC, it's a bit weirder, maybe not weird. It is hold Control key down on your keyboard and then with your right mouse key, like the other one that you don't use very much, the right click and hold that down and go left and right, up and down. All right, so I'm in here, I'm gonna go, and this one here, instead of just using the paintbrush, I'm gonna use the quick selection tool because instead of trying to paint it out, because it is very clearly different from the rest of it, I can just kind of click once in there, click once in there. Nice. Let's click OK, and a pretty sweet mask. Let's get into focus area 4, where it really doesn't work. Okay, so we're gonna go to select, we're going to go to focus area. We can kind of see that it is, but it's got that grain problem again, where huge amount of grain in here, but it's making it the background and foreground quite consistent, and it just doesn't work. And I'll show you a way around it, kinda. Let's go to focus area, kick back, relax, and you just go to here. It's okay. You just won't fix it in here. You just need to, because this is a person or a human, it works better with select subject. Select subject, kick back, relax. Come on, select subject. You can see there, magic. So I'd start with this and add my layer mask, and with the selected, go to selector mask and tidy things up. But we did that in an earlier tutorial. I guess I wanted to show you just sometimes focus area doesn't work and you might have to look at different ways of doing it. We've looked at a few selections already, channel masks and subject. Now the last one we're going to do is we're going to cut this out and stick it like a proper project rather than just looking at it, you know, and here is our mask. We're going to combine stuff and just look at a few, tie together some stuff we've already learnt and turn into a little project so that in the next video I'll set a project of your own. So do this with me and then in the next video you can do it by yourself. So I want to cut that out, stick it there. So to do that, same thing. It looks like it's clearly going to be good for the technique we're using, which is the select focus area. Now I'm going to switch it to on white. Yeah, on white's probably a good, or on black. On white's probably gonna, it's a little bit clearer. Now I'm gonna have to minus some parts out. Brush hardness, I'm gonna get it down a little bit. Doesn't really matter that much when using the quick selection tool. Okay, I've got the basics in there and that's pretty cool, right? Focus area, U rule. Let's go and fix it up a little bit. Let's go to select the mask. All right, it's pretty good. Comparing it against white, I'm gonna turn up the opacity now to 100%. White versus black. I feel like white's probably a better example of how good the selection, especially on this side. First up, let's just see how we go with a little bit of radius and a little bit of smoothing. I'm pretty okay with it. It's really fixed up these edges here. Remember, I'm gonna zoom in, hold P key down on your keyboard. That's the original. Actually, don't hold it down, just tap it. On, off, on, off. Pretty amazing, huh? The other thing I want to do is, those are actually part of the original, right? If I turn this down, they're actually just part of the original image, but I don't want them. So I'm going to go to these are the tools that are not going to work, right? The refine edge tool, because this is such a solid thing, it's just not going to do what I need it to do. So I'm going to undo a couple of times, and I'm just going to use just a plain old paintbrush. I'm going to pick a size and hardness, something about there, hardness. Trying to match the hardness of the edge here of what's already there in focus. If you're sick of that shortcut with the red thing, you can just do size and hardness up here, right? Okay, but I'm now going to hold down my Alt key to turn it to minus. Just kind of tap these things off. Bit of manual labor, can't be avoided sometimes. All right, I'll speed this up because this is painful to watch. All right, so that's gonna work for me. I really like it. I still want to go in and fix a few of these little edges. It's the beads of water that are on the edges of giving a lumpy kind of sides. Photography trick. I don't do the photography much. I do a lot of the retouching, but never keep it in the fridge because it ends up sweating and leaving big pools of water when you're trying to photograph it. So what tends to happen is, well, one of the tricks that we've worked with lots with food photography is you leave it out. It's pretty much off in rank, but if you cover it in hairspray, okay, it looks wet and moist and new and doesn't drip water beads everywhere. Okay, and kind of preserves it for a while. So hairspray is a good trick. But we've got our mask. We want to output it to our layer mask. Click OK. And cool. I want to add this to focus area 6. So we're going to use our trick where we go to our move tool and just go Command C, Command V, and it brings through the layer mask. Cool, huh? All right, so it's in. It's not super believable, but it's pretty cool though. I'm going to do 2 things before we go. We'll add a layer mask, and one of the obvious problems is this glass, and I'll show you a quick little trick for it. So let's do the drop shadow first. We learned this in the Essentials course, but we'll just recover it here for the people that didn't do it. It's pretty fancy. Well, I like it anyway. So I've got this layer selected. I'm going to go to Effects. I'm going to say I'd like a drop shadow. Not worried about too much about this drop shadow, except I want to see it. Okay, like that's not a realistic drop shadow, I know, but it's mainly just so I can see what it looks like and play around with the opacity, the size, how fuzzy it is. It's going to work for me. Click OK. You're like, that is terrible. But remember, the people that did it, you know, you can right click the word drop shadow and go to this one that says create layer. It's cryptically named. Basically, it means I'm going to yank the drop shadow off as an effect. And look, it's its own shadow on its own layer. So I'm just going to move it around. Cool, huh? And it means that we can go to edit, transform, and go to distort. I'm just going to use the shortcut because we're in the advanced class. So hit Command T on your keyboard. If you're a Mac, Control T on a PC, and then just hold down the Command key on a Mac or Control key on a PC. And instead of it just kind of like doing this, you hold down the Command key or Control key on a PC. It just distorts it without having to go to the official edit distort. It just kind of does it all for you. So what I'm looking for now is looking for the shadow on both the focus area 5, you can see there's a big shadow cast this way, and in here it's pretty neutral. The photographer's probably composited this background anyway, so it gives us lots of freedom to decide where the shadow's gonna go. So I'm gonna transform it, I'm gonna move it around, moving. I'm gonna try and get the base of it there. How realistic this is gonna be. Where's the light gonna be coming from? I don't know whether it should be kind of coming from this way or this way. Oh, your dams look awesome. Okay, well, it's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna hit return, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do couple of things. One is on this layer here, I'm gonna play with a different. It's defaulted to multiply. So I'm gonna go through and just pick another blending mode. Remember, holding Shift on my keyboard, make sure you're on the move tool, okay? And then tap the plus key and it just cycles through the color modes over here. And you're just looking for one that at least gets you close to where you wanna be. I kind of like that, but it's probably not very... I do like what linear burn does to the wood. Can I find anything else that I like? No. Maybe a linear light I like, but it needs to be kind of reduced, especially out here where it shouldn't be. It should be kind of maybe dark in here, but not further out. So what I like to do is just add a layer mask to the drop shadow. Make sure you're working on your mask. Grab your paintbrush, okay, just your B key. I'm going to make sure that my blending mode is normal. We played around in an earlier tutorial to change it to overlay. And in terms of the opacity, I'm just going to kind of like remove parts of it, but I want to turn the opacity of the brush down. We're going to use our shortcut along the top of our keyboard. Just remember 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe 30%. You see the opacity changes, 40, bit of practice. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of build this out. Maybe even lower, 10%. Just kind of clicking and dragging and working it, especially maybe over here. The back there. I'm trying to make it look realistic. All right, I'm okay with the shadow. Probably it needs another bit of blurring. So you can click on this, then go up to filter and use blur. We're gonna do blur later on, but don't worry, everyone uses Gaussian blur. So do I. You might just blur it up a bit more. So one of the other big obvious things I can see is that it's just got a blue cast to it. This background's got quite a warm yellow feel to it, whereas this has got quite a blue cast. And it's making this stand out too much. So with this layer selected, let's even name it. Let's go crazy. Smoothie. Okay, and with it selected, let's go to adjustments and I'm gonna use color balance. Which one is you? There he is there. Okay, second line, second in, and I'm just gonna shift the blue to yellow. Now, at the moment it's doing it to the whole thing. So if you click on this, remember it says, I'm only going to affect the layer just underneath me, which is smoothie. Now, I'm just going to kind of warm it up, turn it on and off, yeah, get in there. So maybe a bit more red than cyan. Give it a little bit of green for the green smoothie. Do you like it? I feel like it sits in there a bit nicer. Next thing I'm going to do is fix up this glass. It's like really bright compared to the background. It's not showing through any texture, and you'll run into this problem with glass. Glass is tough for this, so I'm going to do a kind of a caveman fix. I just want to show you what I would do now. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in. What I want to do is work on the mask. I'm going to use my paintbrush. I'm going to make a nice small brush. I'm going to have the opacity at maybe 20%. How hard is it going to be? Hardness at 0. I want it nice and fluffy. Because what I want to do is I'm going to leave a lot of the whites. It's this gray stuff. The blacks are good, the whites are good. Often when you're working with glass, it's the mid-tones that are the background. So I'm just going to caveman it and do this. Just painting it out. Okay, so I'm just kind of painting it out in little parts. Why? Because it's showing through the background a little bit, bringing through that kind of reddy ochre that's in there. Okay, and just making the glass a bit more translucent. Total cheap trick rather than getting too complicated about it. Changing the colors and stuff would work, but if we put it on a different background, at least this technique is going to show through the background a bit more. I might remove a little bit of the glass as well. I mean the highlights, just to kind of lighten it up a little bit. To show you what I mean is, remember we can hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, and just click on the mask and just see what I'm doing here. So pretty primitive, but you can see it's just starting to kind of blend in a bit more. If I move the background, give it a name, you can see it just kind of moves there and kind of takes on a bit of the background through it. And that should be it. But this bottom down here is annoying me as well. There's like a weird reflection that just wouldn't happen on this desktop, I feel. So you could work on the actual image and maybe darken it. I'm just gonna work on the layer mask because I don't want to destroy the image. I'll do the same thing with my brush tool. Just gonna kind of lower this a little bit, just the bits I don't like. Letting the wood kind of peek through. All right, how much do I like it? I'm pretty happy. I'm okay with that shadow doing weird stuff. One last thing, I know there's just one last thing, but a weird thing that happened. I created a new layer, and because it was in between my adjustment layer and the image, kind of did this weird thing where it became what's called a clipping mask for this image. That happens all the time. Just drag it underneath, make sure that is still using this option connected to the bottom, and my layer here is going to be extra shadow. Always find believability in doing just a little bit of black paint brushing. So brush, I'm gonna have opacity of maybe 50%. I'm gonna use black. Another shortcut for you is see my foreground and background color. One is blue, one is white. Okay, so you can click on this to force it to go black and white, but you'll see there's my shortcut given away, D key. Okay, so if I hit D, it just sets it back to the default black and white. X key toggles between the two. You can see over here, X goes foreground, background color, and D just sets it back to black and white. So here we go. I'm just gonna add this on its own layer. You can see it's kind of okay, but I probably wanna set it to maybe multiply and maybe just lower the opacity of it down again. I like getting just that second kind of rung of super close shadow, and then this more kind of wafty shadow. All right, okay, that's it for this one. Let's jump into the next video. I'm gonna set you a goal to do stuff like this on your own. Really ties together a lot of the stuff we're learning so far, so I'll see you there. All right, I have got a fun class project for you. This tomato, that chopping board, Okay, the rules are in the class projects Word doc. This one here, class project focus area. Both the files are in project 3, and the rules of engagement are you have to use the focus area to get started. You'll have to tweak it using anything you like, but probably select and mask. And the one that I'm interested in is how good your shadow ends up being. It's not a graded test, everyone's gonna do something different, but please post what you do. Even if you think it's bad, it might be bad, that's okay. Your post might make somebody else feel better when theirs is average, yours is bad, it makes them feel good. Plus, we're all here to learn, so post it and tell us what you did, okay? How you did it, whether you can do the detached drop shadow option, or you might just paint it in. Let us know what blending mode you used. Maybe you didn't use black for the shadow, maybe it was a brown. Try and make it look realistic. You have to work out which way the light's being cast. It looks like from there, from this one, slightly different from this one. You don't have to just use these features here. Make sure you do these, but you can use anything else to kind of color grade or add noise. Anything you like for the class project. And at the end, post it at any of these places up here at the top. I'd love to see what you do. Onward to the next video. All right, it is a little trick for doing masks this video. You've been doing lots of masking videos, selections of masking, and I heard you say, another one, Dan, give me one more. This is just a small one, and it's a little trick that I wanted to keep in here because I use it all the time. It's a little hard to get places. So let's say we used this image in the last one and we went focus area, and that worked great to a point. Okay, we minus this chunk out. We're going to select a mask. Radius, smoothing, I might shift the edge in a little bit, and it kind of got it to a nice point, right? But there's a couple of parts. This bit here is the main offender. Click OK. There's one there as well. So I'm going to show you how to use the smudge tool, okay? I use it because, I'll show you why. Let's do this one first. He's the easiest one to get because I'm going to work on my mask, and what people tend to do is they grab the brush tool and then they just make it really small, and then how small do you make it? And you keep like, let's actually do it so I can show you. So in here, really small, what's my opacity at? We'll put it at 100%. I just get that bit, and then I make the brush a bit smaller, and then I get that bit. And you end up this kind of like, it always ends up looking a bit fake doing it that way. So along comes the smudge tool. What does the smudge tool do? If I work on the actual image, and I zoom out a little bit, the smudge tool is this little finger here. Here's normally the blur tool. If you hold them down, grab the smudge tool. Now up here, just make sure it's set to, you might have been playing around, just pick one of these top general brushes, pick any brush, okay? And what we'll do is the strength around about 50%. And we'll set the hardness to 0. Basically, if I'm working on the actual pixels, it just smudges things, right? Just, you can kind of see it there. Smudgy, smudgy, smudge. But if I undo, that same little thing, when I'm working on the actual mask, does some really cool stuff. So I'm gonna pick an appropriate brush size and then kind of smudge it in, and look, and let go. Oh, cool, huh? Just kind of smudges it in. I'll show you what I mean, or what it does. I'm gonna hold down the Alt key on a PC, Option key on a Mac, just to click on the mask to show you what it's doing. And I undo, because the smudge tool, watch this. If I make it nice and big, if I just push from the edge, watch what happens. When I click and drag, I'm just holding the mouse key down, no Wacom tablet. You can see it kind of, as it's moving along, it kind of slowly makes the radius smaller and the effect smaller. So it's really good for pushing into those edges. So I'm gonna turn it back on, pick a brush size, zoom in. And in this case, I might make the hardness just a little bit less and just push in here. You can see it just gets in the corners really quick and easy rather than messing about with the, making the brushes bigger and smaller. See in here as well in these corners? Ah, look how cool that is. Do it for this one as well. Where was that one? Oh, sneaky trick there. If you hold down the H key on your keyboard, so I couldn't find where this was, right? I was down here and I was like, we've all done it, right? You're like, okay, I want to go to this other part. And you're like, oh man, I should have zoomed out. You can't find it, right? If you hold down the H key on your keyboard, it moves to the hand tool. But the extra perk for it is if you click and hold down the mouse key, okay, it zooms out to like full zoom, and then you move it around and say, I want to look at this bit. Retouch it, retouch it, retouch it, fix it, hold down H, click, holding the mouse key down over here, and now I'm going to kind of work in this bit here. You can see it's not starting down here, so I might have to grab my brush tool and just kind of start a little bit, back to my smudge tool, and then just kind of work this out into the gaps. Fun. You might not like it, you might do. I hope you do, I like it. Gets into those corners nicely, that. If you're using a Wacom tablet, you probably wouldn't have to do this because it's pressure sensitive, right? And you can just hold it a little bit lighter and it goes and pushes it out. This pesky one, and pesky one again. Okay, now I'm just moving around, but you get the idea, right? Smudge tool can be handy for those kind of corners that you need to get into. Just a quick little bonus video. All right, let's move on.